Chapter 747. 9 Heaven's True Dragon Chi Make a Move Directly? Sia the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan raised an eyebrow slightly. From just a few words he could sense the changes in Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was not like this before, he wouldn't even fight let alone kill. After killing 3 9 Divine Mansion disciples again, Zhou Xian chose to leave and cultivate in another place. His skill broke through in the same year, obviously using his lifespan evolution ability. It seems Zhou Xian is becoming obsessed with the ability to evolve his lifespan. In the subsequent years, beings from the 9 Divine Mansion came to investigate the deaths of those 2 disciples constantly. As long as Zhou Xian heard their questions he would kill them directly. There were even times when people knelt and begged for his mercy. Although Guan did not agree with his change, it had come to this and killing was the only option left. Zhou Xian had thoroughly opposed the 9 Divine Mansion. By the time Guan had a choice he had already killed more than 10 disciples of the 9 Divine Mansion. Even if he chose to show mercy then, the 9 Divine Mansion would not have spared him. It looked like Zhou Xian was set to become the next Long Zhan, but countless times stronger. Guan carefully monitored the prompts. If Zhou Xian's killing spree continued he would have to find a way to end his life. But unfortunately all he could do was choose yes or no. He couldn't decide Zhou Xian's life and death directly. Fortunately, Zhou Xian was not as evil as he had imagined. At the age of 116,722, you encountered a group of people being pursued by evil spirits. You chose to save them and later learned from them about another half of the world. You were filled with curiosity about the mortal world, so you left the underworld with them. At the age of 116,726, you arrived at the Taoyuan Great World of the mortal world, and at the invitation of those people, you visited the Erosion Moon sect. At the age of 116,727, the female cultivator Yan Yueshi you saved in the underworld confessed to you, hoping to marry you. Do you accept? No. Already extreme and still in love? If something happened to this female cultivator named Yan Yueshi, wouldn't Zhou Xian go mad? For the sake of all living beings, Guan refused this marriage on behalf of Zhou Xian. You refused Yan Yuexi's confession. Yan Yueshi begged bitterly but you were unmoved. Finally Yan Yueshi, in a rage, cursed you venomously, saying you humiliated her and she would repay you tenfold. Crazy. Rejecting you is humiliating you? Why don't you remember the favor of saving your life? Guan laughed, thinking that this woman named Yan Yueshi was no good. Fortunately he refused. If she had married Zhou Xian, who knows how much trouble would follow. Reincarnation continued and prompts kept popping up. Zhou Xian left the Erosion Moon sect and traveled through the Taoyuan Great World with Gui Sanlang. If anyone troubled him he killed them directly. But if he encountered someone in distress, whether human, demon or ghost soul, he would help. Good and evil coexisted, making it hard to judge his nature for the moment. The next life experiences, every scene possible unfolded, which was no longer new to Guan. He could clearly feel Zhou Xian growing stronger rapidly. In less than 1,000 years since arriving in the mortal world, this guy was about to break through to the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. The growth rate was truly terrifying. The commotion caused by his breakthrough was not small, attracting many strong figures from the Taoyuan Great World to watch. Some even attacked him directly only to be killed by him, and eventually, it led to the appearance of innate golden immortals. Although Zhou Xian was no match for the innate golden immortal, he used his innate divine ability, Profound Abyss Yin-Yang Guard, to escape through the void to outer heaven. Thus, Zhou Xian began to hide again. Grudges, once formed, truly have no end. After arriving at outer heaven the dangers increased and the enemies were stronger, but Zhou Xian's growth rate did not slow down. He crossed into the innate golden immortal realm at less than 300,000 years old, and this was without wantonly slaughtering living beings. At just over 500,000 years old, Zhou Xian stepped into the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm and then returned to the underworld with Gui Sanlang, who had also grown strong. He came to the banks of the Yellow Springs River, looking at the ceaseless flowing yellow springs, reminiscing about the past, not expecting before he left. A figure shot out from the Yellow Springs, landing before him. It was Tai Hao, who had invited him to the Yellow Springs in search of treasures. What Gu Xian and Taihao talked about Guan did not know, but from the prompts, it seemed that they were very happy to be reunited after a long time. Taihao revealed that the Nine Divine Mansion monopolized the power of reincarnation, hindering the soul's rebirth. Their sins were beyond measure. He wanted to invite Gu Xian to join him in opposing the Nine Divine Mansion, killing the one who hindered reincarnation. Guan got a chance to choose. This time he didn't choose to avoid the crisis. Gu Xian had lived so long, only relying on the other shore heavenly god's skill and profound abyss yin-yang guard. Guan felt it was worth a lifespan of 1 billion years, considered it paid off. From then on he could venture freely whether he died early or not mattered less, causing fewer killings. So, Gu Xian agreed to Taihao's invitation and went with him to the Nine Divine Mansion. This made Taihao very happy and they even became sworn brothers. They are all restless souls. Guan sighed in his heart as if foreseeing the tragedy. After all, the Nine Divine Mansion still ruled the land of reincarnation in the underworld, while the other shore heaven had ceased to exist. At the age of 501,372, you and Taihao reached the reincarnation heaven pool of the Nine Divine Mansion. You encountered the Taiyin reverse dragon guarding the pool. Taihao made the first move and you had to assist. Eventually, you killed the Taiyin reverse dragon and obtained the reincarnation heaven lotus in the pool. At the age of 501,373, the Nine Divine Mansion sensed your disturbance and sent a large number of disciples to besiege you. It was only then you realized Taihao's true strength far exceeded yours. After a great battle, Taihao took you and escaped the reincarnation heaven pool, reaching the other side of the underworld, where you rested beneath the Yin tree. At the age of 501,374, Taihao insisted on teaching you a divine skill called Nine Heavens True Dragon Qi. You mastered it in the same year, surprising Taihao greatly. At the age of 501,380, you and Taihao attacked the Nine Divine Mansion again, encountering them forging billions of souls into 6 paths ghost artifacts. Displeased, you intervened, leading to a great battle. During the battle, you chose to break through, and a massive lightning from the Great Tao descended upon the Nine Divine Mansion. You reached the Taiqing Golden Immortal Realm but also attracted the strongest of the Nine Divine Mansion. Despite you and Taihao's best efforts, you were subdued under a great array. At the critical moment, a powerful mana transported you away. You fell into a coma, and upon waking, you were shocked to discover the powerful being who saved you and your brother was your master, the Other Shore Emperor. The Other Shore Emperor revealed that the Nine Divine Mansion had committed countless atrocities, disrupting the 6 Paths order. The Other Shore Heaven decided to overthrow the Nine Divine Mansion's rule. He had already appealed to the Zhangtian, requesting help from immortal gods. Before the immortal gods arrived, he hoped you and Taihao would cultivate first and not act rashly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 748. Against the immortal gods. After being saved by the Other Shore Emperor, Gu Xian and Taihao no longer ventured out, focusing on their cultivation steadfastly. However, when it involved immortal gods, Guan always felt things wouldn't be simple and surely wouldn't go smoothly. The facts were as he anticipated. Gu Xian and Taihao cultivated for 1,000 years, and then immortal gods descended upon the land of reincarnation. At the age of 52,392, immortal gods descended upon the land of reincarnation. The Other Shore Emperor led you and Taihao to invade the Nine Divine Mansion. As the battle commenced, disciples from Other Shore Heaven also joined in, causing the Nine Divine Mansion to fall into a passive state. You began a killing spree, continuously enhancing your comprehension of the Other Shore Heavenly God's skill. In the same year, the immortal gods suddenly turned against you, joining forces with the Nine Divine Mansion to besiege Other Shore Heaven. Before your master, the Other Shore Emperor, died, he sent you and Taihao away. You and Taihao fell into reincarnation. You landed in a mortal world, regaining consciousness and vowing to avenge the immortal gods. The immortal gods turned against them, indicating it was a plot against Other Shore Heaven. Alternatively, it could be that the Nine Divine Mansion had convinced the Celestial Court during the millennium that the Other Shore Emperor was waiting. Although Gu Xian was involved in the downfall of Other Shore Heaven, it wasn't due to him. It was the result of the power struggle between the two forces with the Celestial Court. Guan had only one feeling after reading it. Weakness is the original sin. The powerful immortal gods showed no mercy, changing their stance without hesitation. Stimulated by this, Zhou Xian began to crazily seek power. He destroyed the temples and shrines of immortal gods wherever he went, killing anyone who dared to obstruct him. This naturally led to him attracting the enmity of celestial gods within a few hundred years. Now no celestial god could match him. His path was paved with slaughter, purely out of revenge, which also offered Guan a choice. Zhou Xian started traveling to all heavens and myriad realms, targeting celestial gods specifically, as they were the easiest immortal gods for him to find. They existed in every great thousand world. The title of Immortal Slayer began to spread. At the age of 99,866, you entered Nine Elements' great world for the first time and encountered a group of cultivators besieged by cosmic evil demons. You intervened to save them, and one of the female cultivators called out your name. You then realized it was Xianxia whom you had rejected back then. Reuniting after a long time, you found her temperament had drastically changed. No longer as reckless as before but very steady. She wanted to apologize, saying her words back then were nonsense. At her invitation you headed towards the main world of Nine Elements' great world, Xianxia. Seeing her change in attitude, Guan was somewhat pleased. Of course, even if she suddenly turned against Zhou Xian and plotted against him, he wouldn't mind. Surviving until now was already profitable. Anything further was just a gain. After arriving at Nine Elements' great world, the sect of Xianxia and others faced troubles from their enemies, even leading to fierce confrontations. Zhou Xian couldn't stand it, intervening directly, using bloodshed to instill fear. Subsequently he started a killing spree in Nine Elements' great world, targeting either Xianxua's enemies or followers of celestial gods, forcing the immortal gods to reveal themselves. But he was at the Taiqing Golden Immortal Realm, and with his past achievements, the celestial gods in Nine Elements' great world hesitated to face him. When the celestial gods finally appeared, they brought a celestial army. Even immortal monarchs joined the fray. The epic battle shook the entire great world. In the same year, Zhou Xian traversed several great thousand worlds, constantly pursued by immortal gods, locked in relentless conflict. It was only until the following year that Zhou Xian astonishingly chose to break through during battle, achieving the heaven-opening Daoist immortal realm. The immense thunder of the great Dao annihilated millions of heavenly soldiers, forcing out an even more powerful immortal god. A mysterious giant hand crossed time and space, seriously injuring Zhou Xian, who had just reached the heaven-opening Daoist immortal realm. At the critical moment, Taihao appeared and rescued Zhou Xian, the two of them escaping to the underworld once again. Zhou Xian now harbored immense hatred towards immortal gods, beginning a relentless killing spree of any beings that accidentally wandered into the underworld. Taihao couldn't stop him but remained by his side. After 10,000 years, Zhou Xian reached the Miaozhen Daoist immortal realm, shaking the entire underworld. Numerous great powers came to visit him. Even the Nine divine mansion sent people who were immediately killed by him. After the visitors dispersed, Taihao challenged him, wanting to spar. Guan then faced the choice of whether to accept the challenge. He unhesitatingly chose to accept, believing from previous hints that Taihao was extraordinary. Being able to save Zhou Xian from immortal gods was evidence enough of his prowess, making it an ideal opportunity to gauge his strength. Thus, Zhou Xian began a fierce battle with Taihao. This battle lasted over 10,000 years without yielding a winner. During their combat, they also wreaked havoc upon the Nine divine mansion and eventually fell into the netherworld. During the combat, Zhou Xian's other shore heavenly god skill, Profound Abyss Yin-Yang Guard, and Nine Heavens True Dragon Chi continuously improved, evidently utilizing lifespan to evolve abilities. Yet despite this, Zhou Xian didn't gain an advantage over Taihao according to the prompts. This guy is indeed strong. His name carries Hao, Siege Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan raised his eyebrows, deep in thought. Sharing a name isn't much, but at higher realms the taboo becomes greater. Someone at Taihao's realm wouldn't easily use Hao as part of their name. Could Taihao have a connection with the celestial court? The more he thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. Zhou Xian survived 2 immortal god sieges with Taihao present each time. At the age of 110,271, Taihao halts the battle, declaring it a draw. Do you accept? Yes. You chose to accept. Taihao praised your talent and comprehension as the strongest he has ever seen, agreeing to spar again after surpassing the Daoist Immortal realm. You happily agreed. Afterwards, you two decided to rest for 100 years and then completely flatten the Nine Divine Mansion. At the age of 110,371, you and Taihao descended upon the Nine Divine Mansion, destroying it. As you prepared to wipe them out, a Dao Extreme Daoist Immortal arrived. Feeling he wasn't an opponent, Taihao pulled you away and you two left the underworld, arriving in the mortal world. At the age of 110,372, you and Taihao arrived at the Taisher Great World, which was being ravaged by chaos evil demons. You chose to intervene and within less than half a year, you eradicated the chaos evil demons in this world. At the age of 110,399, you and Taihao arrived at Abyss Dao Sea and discovered a spiritual spring by chance. You chose to bathe there, strengthening your bodies. Ghost Third Brother's ghost body also transformed. At the age of 110,653, you and Taihao left Abyss Dao Sea, entering the path of the Great Dao. You encountered the birth of a Daoist emperor who, noticing your formidable aura, chose to attack you. You killed him fiercely, offending his sect behind him. With others using divine sense, they threatened to consign you to eternal damnation. At the age of 110,701, the Donglan Emperor clan descended upon the path of the Great Dao, besieging you too. In the end, you and Taihao slaughtered thousands of cultivators from the Donglan Emperor clan. At the age of 110,702, you arrived at Primordial Emperor Domain and exterminated the Donglan Emperor clan. In the same year, your other Shore Heavenly God skill reached a new level of achievement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 749. All are reincarnation bodies again. The Primordial Emperor Domain. There are indeed many Emperor clans in the Primordial Emperor Domain. Now Guan can see the Primordial Emperor Domain clearly. It indeed has deep foundations, but there are no supreme experts in the Primordial Emperor Domain. Not to mention Xianxia Primordial Immortal, even the number of Dao Extreme Daoist Immortals is less than 5. Of course, possessing Dao Extreme Daoist Immortals alone is enough to prove the strength of the Primordial Emperor Domain. After exterminating the Donglan Emperor clan, Zhou Xian and Taihao began to travel through the Primordial Emperor Domain. The days that followed were relatively peaceful, as the Primordial Emperor Domain had no celestial gods to guard it, so Zhou Xian didn't go on a killing spree. In the subsequent tips, Guan watched them travel around, make many friends and continuously encounter female cultivators and female demons showing goodwill towards them. Zhou Xian refused and Taihao also refused as if it were a competition. After experiencing so much, the relationship between the two grew closer. After leaving the Primordial Emperor Domain, they still traveled together, traversing the heavens, and more names of the Great Thousand Worlds appeared in the tips. Gu Xuanyus' realm also stagnated. To be precise, it returned to a normal rate of becoming stronger, remaining in the Miaozhen Daoist Immortal realm for a long time. The two went to the Dao fields of great powers to listen to Dao, benefiting immensely, and Taihao even created new divine skills which he passed on to Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian wasn't as creative as Taihao. He invested his lifespan evolution into the other Shore Heavenly God skill and profound Abyss Yin and Yang protection. The Nine Heavens True Dragon Chi also improved, but its frequency in the tips was clearly lower than the other two. At this rate it's hard to die. While rejecting a Miaozhen Daoist Immortal female expert for Zhou Xian, Guan sighed. The sea breeze blew gently and sitting on the reef he couldn't help but stretch lazily. The smoothness of this life made him feel somewhat bored, but he could only wait. The age in the tips rapidly increased, and even after tens of millions of years, Zhou Xian did not encounter any sieges by immortal gods. However, his cultivation realm had reached the Dao Extreme Daoist Immortal. He was inseparable from Taihao, going everywhere together. They visited the endless Dao Mountain to listen to the Dao, gaining great fame and receiving exalted titles from the ancient great powers of the endless Dao Mountain, being called the two great saints of the great Dao. See Teach Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This ancient great power was called the Supreme Sect Master, whose cultivation was unfathomable, and even Dao Extreme Daoist Immortals bowed to him. In the current endless Dao Mountain, Guan hadn't heard of this name. The Supreme Sect Master openly declared in the Dao field that Gu Xinyu and Taihao had the potential to become saints. The potential to become saints? Guan was somewhat curious, but from the tips he couldn't understand what the potential to become saints was. After being bestowed with their titles by the Supreme Sect Master, Gu Xinyu and Taihao's fame spread far and wide. Wherever they went, great powers from various sects and clans came to welcome them, leading to much less conflict. It wasn't until Gu Xinyu was over 100 million years old that he experienced only a few major battles, and his cultivation realm still remained at the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. He seemed to be no longer in a hurry and no longer relied on lifespan evolution abilities. When approaching 200 million years old, Gu Xinyu encountered Yan Yueshi again. Even after so many years, her affection for him hadn't changed, and she even wanted to leave her sect to travel the heavens with him. This time, Guan agreed because he saw that Gu Xuanyu's mental state had changed in the tips. Reaching this realm, if he still refused his beloved for fear of trouble, it would indeed be too pathetic. Yan Yuex's joining greatly displeased Taihao, leading to many arguments between the two, often stopped by Gu Xuanyu's words. Yan Yueshi hoped Gu Xinyu could stop, marry her and become Dao companions. Taihao, however, believed that the Great Dao is long and that one should not stop before seeing the end of the Great Dao. This argument persisted until the arrival of the immortal gods. Countless immortal gods descended, surrounding the three, and even several supreme immortals joined the fray. After fighting for hundreds of years, Yan Yueshi was captured. The immortal gods threatened Gu Xinyu to surrender. This time, Guan had no choice, indicating that Gu Xinyu had no hesitation in his heart. He told Taihao to escape alone, then walked towards the supreme immortals. Ultimately, he was captured by the immortal gods. Guan thought it was the end for him, but the tips continued. He was brought to the celestial court, where a celestial Dao venerable ordered him to be thrown into the heavenly prison. He began meditating and seeking enlightenment in the heavenly prison. During this time, many immortal gods came to recruit him, some for the Son of Heaven, others for the celestial Dao venerable, but Guan refused them all. Now, Guan only wished for Gu Xinyu to end his life soon, to avoid exposing his lifespan stealing ability. However, the celestial court wouldn't kill him. After being suppressed for tens of millions of years, someone came to visit him, and it was Yan Yueshi. She had already ascended to the immortal class, becoming a celestial god in the celestial court. She persuaded Gu Xinyu to submit, saying the celestial court was invincible, and even the strongest beings had to be bound by the heavenly Dao. Gu Xinyu thought of his deceased master and the slaughtered other shore heaven. Despite his beloved's persuasion, he still refused to bow his head. No matter how she tried, Gu Xinyu remained adamant. Yan Yueshi became very angry, warning him harshly, which reminded Guan of the time Gu Xinyu first rejected her. Although this time Yan Yueshi was concerned about Gu Xuanyu's life and death, Guan felt she did not understand Gu Xinyu. If Guan felt this way, how much more so would Gu Xinyu, who directly faced Yan Yueshi? In the endless years in the heavenly prison, the tips became simpler. Whether it was cultivation, Dao techniques, or divine skills, it took many years to progress. Even at 100 billion years, Gu Xinyu still hadn't surpassed the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal realm. That year, the heavenly prison shook. The tips revealed a world-shaking fierce demon was causing havoc in the celestial court, heading towards the heavenly prison, destroying its formation and allowing those suppressed strong beings, including Gu Xinyu, to escape. After escaping the heavenly prison, Gu Xinyu saw the fierce demon's figure. The demon's strength greatly shocked him, making him feel it was an opportunity. So instead of fleeing the celestial court, he chose to cause chaos with the demon, killing as many immortal gods as possible to avenge his master. But immortal gods can't be killed, they always revive. Even Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortals feel powerless in endless battles. Finally, 3 celestial Dao venerables descended to capture the fierce demon. Gu Xinyu also prepared himself for death. Before dying, he glanced at Yan Yueshi standing among the vast army of immortal gods, looking down at him with resentment, seemingly blaming his choice. In the tips, Gu Xuanyu's heart felt no bitterness. Instead, he felt relieved and had no regrets. At the critical moment, a terrifying power pierced through the celestial court's destiny, saving Gu Xinyu. The one who saved him was Taihao. Taihao took Gu Xinyu to chaos. Surviving even this, Guan felt a bit helpless. 100 billion years of life memories must be so long. The inheritance process must be exhausting, especially since Zhou Xian hadn't died yet and the weight of the memories kept increasing. After escaping the range of the heavenly Tao, Taihao stood in the chaos void and looked at you. His expression made you feel unfamiliar. Taihao said he was very disappointed in you, thinking you were held back by romantic feelings. Without Yan Yueshi you wouldn't have ended up like this. He couldn't stand your current state and challenged you to a life and death duel. Looking into his eyes you knew he was serious and you accepted the challenge. After an epic battle lasting 1 billion years in the collapsing and chaotic Great Tao Void, you and Taihao perished together. Before your consciousness completely dissipated, you realized that you were just a reincarnation body. Not only you but Taihao was also a reincarnation body of some existence, emitting a celestial Tao destiny far surpassing the celestial Tao Venerable. Meeting Taihao's gaze, you seemed to comprehend that your battle would continue. You are killed. Reincarnation ends. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 750. The meaning of reincarnation's finally over. Guan looked at the last prompt, feeling emotional in his heart. But regarding Zhou Xian's feelings before his death he felt a bit uneasy. The heavenly Tao destiny that far surpassed the celestial Tao Venerable, why did it sound so much like the celestial emperor? The celestial emperor had been in seclusion for many years. Creating billions of reincarnation bodies was normal. Thinking about it carefully, as long as Taihao was there, they could always escape from the siege of the immortal gods. As Guan was contemplating, a vast and boundless memory flooded into his mind. He didn't move or activate the lifespan barrier. Although the inherited memories would absorb spiritual energy, the celestial spirit great world had long since transformed. The nature's spiritual energy far surpassed the past, making a little commotion wasn't an issue. Moreover, even if the beings of the celestial spirit great world came nearby, they would be unable to perceive his existence with the naked eye. In the process of integrating the memories, Guan walked once again through Zhou Xian's memories. Compared with the previous cycles of reincarnation, Zhou Xian's life experiences were different from others. Born of the profound abyss fruit, he was insensitive to time, and his concepts and cognitions were above the human world. Zhou Xian's innate divine ability, the profound abyss yin-yang shield, was very powerful. It formed a protective qi with the profound abyss qi and the path of yin and yang. This qi could counteract enemy attacks and allow him to traverse space, a divine skill for both offense and defense. The Other Shore Heavenly God skill taught by the Other Shore Emperor was also a remarkable creation. The Other Shore Emperor himself admitted that it was by obtaining this skill that he opened up the Other Shore Heaven, and its name originated from this skill. Whether it was the profound abyss yin-yang shield or the Other Shore Heavenly God skill, both were worth over 1 billion years of lifespan, making this cycle's lifespan reincarnation quite profitable. Compared with these, Guan was more concerned about Taihao. When he first saw Taihao he didn't think much of it, but after integrating the memories and looking back he felt a bit dazed. Taihao looked too much like an Hao, but had more imposing mannerisms than an Hao, possessing an invincible air. During the days fighting side by side with Taihao, Zhou Xian was often astounded by Taihao. It was because of Taihao that he fought desperately to become stronger. However, no matter how many years of lifespan he invested in his evolution, Taihao always remained unfathomable. Their first confrontation ended in a draw, but Guan felt that Taihao had deliberately held back, fearing that he would be discouraged. The final battle, though, forced Taihao to go all out, and it was undeniable that Taihao was exceedingly strong. Even though it was the 9 Heavens true dragon qi, Zhou Xian's achievements were far inferior to Taihao's. Even as Guan looked back now, he felt that Taihao's strength at that time was unimaginable. Within the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal realm, it was hard to imagine anyone defeating him. This further confirmed to him that Taihao was indeed the Celestial Emperor's reincarnation body. Getting entangled with the Celestial Emperor was not a good thing, but the lifespan reincarnation could isolate cause and effect. If the Celestial Emperor could deduce his existence he would have already found him, considering that Zhou Xian and Taihao were in the past. Wait a minute. Could it be the Celestial Emperor's means that brought an Hao before him? No, if that was the case the Celestial Emperor could have appeared long ago. Moreover, an Hao had gone through many twists and turns before appearing to him. He was handed over to the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable by Emperor Ziwei, and then brought to the celestial spirit Great World by the celestial spirit Immortal Venerable. If the celestial emperor was behind the scheme, why go to such trouble? Guan felt that his ability to manipulate lifespan was very strong and that it likely had greater causal power than the celestial emperor's. He did not dwell on this issue because no matter what, the events had already transpired, and his past within Hao could not be erased. Instead of agonizing over the past, it was better to think about the future. Zhou Xian's life gave him many insights. So many great powers made the great Tao of all heavens seem much richer. Many beings no longer existed, but their existence proved the profoundness of the great Tao of all heavens. The supreme sect master who lectured in the endless Tao mountain made him feel that his cultivation level perhaps surpassed the Xianxia primordial immortal. In addition, during that battle in the celestial court, he saw the figure of a fierce demon who wreaked havoc in the celestial court. Although the demon's cultivation was not as high as his, it could be confirmed that the demon was definitely a Xianxia primordial immortal. 9 out of 10, the demon had just entered the Xianxia primordial immortal realm, believing itself invincible on its path, and thus fought its way to the celestial court. If it didn't have such cultivation, it wouldn't have been able to break into the celestial court. For a powerful figure like a Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal trying to forcefully break into the celestial court, those celestial Dao venerables, supreme immortals would definitely intervene, never giving the Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal the chance to break in. Of course, even if a Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal couldn't break in, escaping while besieged by immortal gods would not be difficult. That fierce demon could have escaped, but chose to fight to the death, likely bearing a deep blood vendetta, with killing intent heavier than Zhou Xian's. The posture of standing alone against billions of immortal gods left a deep impression on Guan. Guan opened his eyes. The ocean in front of him churned incessantly. In the distance he saw the silhouettes of cultivators exploring. No one could perceive him. Via the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He didn't get up immediately. Instead he raised his right hand and strands of black qi emerged from his palm, followed by white qi. The black and white qi intertwined, seemingly following some kind of pattern. Profound Abyss Yin-Yang Shield. This divine skill, having been continuously evolved by Zhou Xian, had reached an extremely profound level. Even compared to the divine skills Guan currently mastered, it was top tier. Only the absolute Void Eye could barely surpass it. Just mastering the Other Shore Heavenly God skill and Profound Abyss Yin-Yang Shield, Zhou Xian could already conquer the all heavens and myriad realms. Originally, Guan planned to undergo more lifespan reincarnations to celebrate breaking the trillion-year lifespan mark, but just Zhou Xian's life made him feel pained. He didn't want to undergo lifespan reincarnation again. He decided to rest for a few million years first. Guan stood up and walked towards the Daoist field of the beginningless. In one step he arrived at the edge of the Daoist field of the beginningless. Following his usual habit, he admired the scenery along the way. The mountain was still the same mountain, but the flowers and plants on it were constantly changing. Some seemed no different from the past, but had long since undergone a cycle of new and old replacement. As he walked, Guan was still reminiscing about Zhou Xian's life. Zhou Xian was different from other reincarnation bodies. Though he performed heroic deeds, he had no humanity. He resembled an immortal, thinking differently from the mortal spirits. When faced with Yen Yuex's persuasion, he could decisively sever his emotions. He didn't fear hardship or loneliness, always determined to accomplish what he believed in. Compared to personal gain, he cared about his own path and the meaning of his existence. Seeking revenge against the immortal gods, aside from obsession, was also to find his own value. He was born from the profound abyss ancient tree with no parents, and the tree itself had not become sentient. He was a creation of the heavenly Tao, not knowing his origin or his destiny. During the billions of years he was imprisoned in the heavenly prison, he kept pondering why he existed. These thoughts had now all been transmitted into Guan's mind. What is the meaning of reincarnation? Guan also pondered this question. The great Tao could create new life, there was no need for souls to be reborn repeatedly. Master! A voice called out. Sin appeared out of thin air before Guan. He excitedly said, Master, I've created a divine skill, please take a look and evaluate it. As he spoke, he raised his right hand. Small vines grew from his palm, quickly forming a tree, then branching and leafing out. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 751. The Immortal arrives. Born for the destiny. Looking at the small tree in Sin's hand, Guan could feel a formidable curse power contained within the tree, eerily similar to the malevolent force of the desperate celestial tomb. If one were to be ensnared by the tree's vines, their mana would dissipate. Even if one could manage to escape, they would be plagued by misfortune for the rest of their life. Guan chuckled softly. Not bad, but you must be careful of being backfired by this kind of power. Sin nodded, then began to speak excitedly, describing the inspiration and future plans for this divine skill. In Zhou Xian's long life he had done many things but never took on a disciple. After merging with his memories, facing his disciple again, he felt a sense of novelty. As he regarded Sin, he suddenly understood the meaning of reincarnation. To the great Tao, reincarnation was of little help, but to those beings with regrets in their hearts, reincarnation was hope. The existence of the path of reincarnation made the world constructed by the great Tao not just one of birth and destruction. Having figured this out, Guan no longer dwelled on the matter. Compared to such questions, there were many other things worth pondering. What shall I do tomorrow? Should I listen to music or indulge in wine and pleasure? Never mind, I'll combine both. In the darkness, a figure appeared out of thin air, his entire body shining with the strong light of the heavenly Tao, clad in heavy silver armor and wrapped in a long golden scarf, looking extraordinarily divine. He lowered his eyes, his expression cold and indifferent, and within his eyes, specks of starlight appeared, seemingly containing two universes. Indeed, full of life, but alas, everything shall be reshaped. The happiness, pain, hatred, and hope you now possess will become meaningless, yet seeing the presence of immortal gods in one's lifetime is fortunate enough. A life not lived in vain. The silver armor immortal god muttered to himself as he raised his right hand, and a golden scroll appeared in his hand, unfolding it with his left hand. In an instant the scroll burst forth with brilliant golden light, dazzling like the sun, illuminating the darkness. Strands of golden energy gushed out, increasingly faster, countless in number, all flying toward the darkness below, forming a magnificent river of golden chi. At the same time, deep within the void of the 3,000 great worlds emerged innumerable golden chi, quickly growing larger, surging toward the heavens and the earth of various realms. Guan, standing side by side with Xiaolon, slightly raised his eyes, and through the celestial spirit great world he saw the conditions of the other great thousand worlds. A powerful force of immortal gods was descending. This force would present all beings the vision of the immortal gods' arrival, and convey the will to compete for destiny, telling them how to survive the upcoming calamity. To end killing by killing, to strive by fighting. Brother Gu, do you think there's a genius in our Xiao family? Xiaolon turned her head to look at Guan, smiling as she asked. They stood at the eaves of a palace, overlooking a vast square in front, where tens of thousands of disciples of the Xiao family were meditating and absorbing qi. The spiritual energy formed spirals of varying sizes, creating a spectacular scene, while the edge of the square was marked by a sheer cliff, thick fog shrouding the mountain, as if fairy traces were hidden within the mist. Guan replied, compared to our era, these disciples are all geniuses. Xiaolon shook her head and laughed. As you said, compared to the past, but in the current human world they are nothing. Even the lowest mortals in our continent are engaging in immortal cultivation. Upon reaching adulthood, they possess chi power comparable to the Foundation establishment realm. The standard for talent has long changed. What she spoke of was the continent in which the Xiao family resided, where even the lowest mortals were cultivating immortality. Indeed, the celestial spirit great world was gradually detaching from the mortal realm. With the strengthening of the celestial Tao destiny of the celestial spirit great world, more ascenders would be guided to this realm. To the beings of the lower realm, the celestial spirit great world was equivalent to the immortal realm, vast beyond imagination where one could pursue longevity. Guan nodded slightly, not responding further. He could sense Xiaolan's little thoughts, but he had no interest in supporting the Xiao family. Xiaolon wanted to support the Xiao family because recently they had born a prodigy of heaven. Unfortunately, the boy's mother bore a deep blood feud. If he left the continent in search of the immortal path, he would face assassination. If not for Xiaolan's intervention, he would already be dead. Aside from her, the strongest in the Xiao family was merely at the Dao Void Profound Immortal realm. In the current Celestial Spirit Great World, a Dao Void Profound Immortal was nothing remarkable. If the prodigious youth stayed on the continent, following the Xiao family's cultivation path, they feared squandering his talent. Thus, the elders of the family turned to Xiaolon for help. Xiaolon had long since noticed the extraordinary nature of the youth's physique. However, she was unsure about teaching him. Taking advantage of Gu An's visit, she invited him to observe the cultivation of the Xiao family disciples. Seeing Gu An simply nod without stating much, Xiaolon bit her lip. "Brother Gu, you know what I wish to ask. Please take a closer look at him. I don't ask you to take him under Wuxia, just point out his physique and tell me how to guide his cultivation." Her gaze held a hint of melancholy. She knew Gu An was deliberately waiting for her to speak first. She recalled those early days back in the Xiao family when she had vowed to strengthen the family relying solely on its members. Over millions of years, through countless tribulations, she had never turned to Gu An for help. Now, breaking her promise for the sake of a junior left her feeling rather frustrated. But there was no other choice. Despite the Xiao family's millennia of existence, the talents they had produced were insignificant compared to those of the Dao court. Now having a prodigy whose physique she couldn't discern, she didn't want to miss this opportunity. It might be the key for the Xiao family to soar. She had been in seclusion for many years watching over the Xiao family. For the family to thrive, it relied on future generations. If they could produce someone like Emperor Tianhong Zhao Russian or Yuan Luo, the Xiao family would undoubtedly ascend, forging deep connections with the major sects of the time. This child's physique is the primordial chaos body. In all the realms, very few can match his innate talent. However, the primordial chaos body requires awakening. Currently, he has yet to fully manifest his potential. Gu An nonchalantly remarked, gazing down at the square. His attention was with the 3,000 great worlds, his mind split in two. The other half was responding to Xiaolon. The prodigy of the Xiao family did not interest him. Primordial chaos body? Xiaolan's eyes lit up in excitement. After millions of years, had the Xiao family finally borne fruit? How can he awaken? Xiaolon hurriedly asked. Gu An replied, he needs powerful mana to shatter his meridians, bones and flesh. When he is on the verge of death, his primordial chaos body will absorb nature's spiritual energy, helping him regenerate his body. From then on he will be unstoppable. Upon hearing this, Xiaolon frowned, her excitement dissipating. Such an awakening method seemed overly cruel. Gu An looked at the celestial vault and said, his physique has indeed emerged due to destiny. The world is about to change again, and perhaps this heralds the replacement of the old and new eras. Hearing his words, Xiaolon felt even more conflicted. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 752. The growth of Wuxia. After Gu An pointed out the method for awakening the primordial chaos body to Xiaolon, he did not ask more about the situation of that Xiao family genius. Nor did Xiaolon expect him to personally oversee it. It was enough to obtain this method. Afterwards, she no longer mentioned the matter but instead took Gu An to continue touring the Xiao family grounds. In the present day, the Xiao family dominated a region, and there were considerable changes every 100 years. She knew Gu An liked to wander, so she planned to show him around more. If Gu An liked this place, he could come often in the future. After the two left, a young man in white clothes on the square opened his eyes and looked towards the grand palace ahead. Strange, was that feeling just an illusion? The young man muttered to himself, looking around before closing his eyes again and continuing his cultivation. As time passed, Gu An, besides the fixed monthly schedule of picking medicinal herbs, spent all his remaining time relaxing. He even transformed into Immortal to play in the human world. He had been a farmer, a scholar, fished along the coast, hunted in the deep mountains, and had even been a powerful court minister in the court, stirring up trouble. Each identity would come to its conclusion. He never maintained any cause and effect with anyone, nor did he reveal his identity as a cultivator. In this way, 800,000 years quickly passed since he inherited the memory of Zhou Xian. Over the past 800,000 years, the struggle for the Son of Heaven had completely erupted, with those powerful great thousand worlds bearing the brunt, becoming battlefields. The celestial Tao destiny also began to spread, affecting more and more great worlds. The celestial spirit great world wasn't exempt from this turmoil either. More and more talents were emerging in the celestial spirit great world, some even possessing physiques not inferior to the primordial chaos body. The growth speed of talents could verify the foundation of a sect, and the clashes between talents also became excuses for the ambitious. The friction among the 9 sects was growing. There was no eternal peace, and for many strong individuals, peace was instead a restraint. They lay dormant, waiting for the opportunity to stir the winds and clouds of the world. This year it was rare for Guan to host the Chinese New Year at the Daoist field of the Beginningless, under Nzai's organization. The New Year was very lively. Some 4th-generation disciples were drinking with Guan for the first time and were very excited. At the spring banquet, Guan agreed that the 4th-generation disciples could start accepting disciples. The standard was the same as for the 4th-generation disciples. They could only accept 1 disciple. The 4th-generation disciples could then accept a 2nd disciple, which made the disciples even happier. They were filled with emotions for the Beginningless and naturally hoped it would grow stronger. Beneath the Beginningless was the 9-spirit continent, a land rich in people and resources. With a call to arms, many would kneel before the dojo. The Beginningless didn't lack sources of talent, but it lacked Guan's approval. As evening approached, Guan swayed the wine jug, gazing at the sunset. His eyes reflected an earth-shattering battle, one great thousand world invading another. Continuous streams of living beings crossed the void, never stopping even if they were torn to pieces. Sarthan Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Master, I've written a roster recording all the disciples. Would you like to take a look? An Exan came to Guan's side and asked softly. Guan had restrictions on the disciples accepted by the 3rd and 4th generation disciples, but not on the 2nd generation disciples. Now, the number of disciples in the Beginningless had exceeded 150. Even the youngest disciple had grown up and could stand alone if they went out. Of course, to leave the Beginningless, one must at least cultivate to the Zhou Immortal realm. Guan accepted the roster, opened it with one hand and reviewed it carefully. He mainly focused on Nzin's writing, from which he could see the depth of her Tao intent and her mood while writing. Master, if the struggle for the Son of Heaven affects the celestial spirit great world, can the disciples be given a chance to train? An Exan saw that Guan was in a good mood today, so she smiled and asked softly. Cultivation, apart from achieving longevity, was essentially about becoming stronger than others. After practicing for millions of years, only sparring with fellow sect members had become tedious for the disciples. They also wanted to vanquish demons and save all living beings, just like the stories Guan wrote in his books. An Xian also wanted to do something, to put her learning to use. Alright, you can arrange it then. Guan glanced at an Exan smiling. His response made an Exan uneasy, fearing that Guan might be angry. Master, if you don't want us to do this, we can refrain from going out. An Xian quickly expressed her intentions. Guan smiled helplessly and said, I wouldn't play mind games with you all. Since I've agreed, it means I truly consent. Hearing this, an Exan finally breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know why, but over the past million years she felt Master had become more and more dignified. Although he still smiled, an extraordinary aura of transcendence brought her increasing pressure with each passing day. If she felt this way, what more the other disciples? Guan heard her thoughts but did not explain. Nowadays he no longer cared about what others thought. Even if they were nervous facing him, so what? After all, he would not harm the people around him. Nervousness wouldn't affect anything. He was now thinking about one thing: when to break through. Currently he had a lifespan of 16 trillion years. A vast amount, but he felt it wasn't stable enough for a breakthrough. Of course, if he were to wait for a quadrillion years he wouldn't be able to endure it. After hearing Guan's words, an Exan felt she had overthought, beginning to speculate on what Master was thinking. Master wasn't a petty person. He either agreed or disagreed, never letting the disciples guess. Then she toasted Guan with a glass of wine before bowing and taking her leave. In the torn dark void, figures of living beings were fighting everywhere. More than the stars, a heartbreaking sight. Explosions appeared continuously in all directions, with distortions in time and space. mysterious shadows traversing the darkness. Zhang Buku, clad in silver armor, was also fighting. He wielded a long spear, his momentum unstoppable. No one could block him, and his gaze was always fixed on a massive shadow in the distance. Molo Qilin. Zhang Buku didn't know the name of this demon, nor could he see its true form, only the crimson eyes of the Molo Qilin, which filled him with dread. What a terrifying evil demon! Its momentum was even stronger than the celestial calming god. He was filled with confusion, wondering how the Son of Heaven could drive such an evil demon to fight for him. Did the celestial court not intervene? Although he was a heavenly soldier with the status of an immortal god, he didn't even have the qualification to step into the celestial court. Sometimes thinking about it made him feel bitter. But after the bitterness came an even greater fighting spirit. He must ascend the heavenly ascension stairs. He must go to the celestial court. Zhang Buku's eyes grew determined as he cast aside his inner distractions and charged towards the Molo Qilin. The struggle for the Son of Heaven had begun. Their task was to seize this great thousand world. As pioneers they could not retreat. The celestial court's destiny kept them immortal. Since they wouldn't die, even if the opponent was strong, he would fight fearlessly. Many heavenly soldiers had the same thought, all striving to slay the Molo Qilin. In the exceedingly distant void, atop the gigantic Molo Qilin's head stood a man in black. He crossed his arms over his chest, his face coldly arrogant. He looked down at the heavenly soldiers charging toward him with contempt in his eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 753. The Crazy Immortal. The immortal gods of the celestial court are truly foolish and arrogant. The man in black muttered in a low voice. He raised his right hand and reached forward into the air as if it were a dragon's claw. With a wave, a vast expanse of black energy surged forward, sweeping relentlessly. Within the rolling black mist emerged countless figures clad in black armor, strikingly similar to the heavenly soldiers, but entirely black. As soon as this dark heavenly army emerged, their terrifying murderous intent shook the entire battlefield, drawing innumerable creatures to turn their heads and look. On this void battlefield, apart from the heavenly soldiers and evil demons, there were more Daoists from the two great worlds from all races, making it extremely chaotic. The battlefield was vast and impossible to judge with the naked eye, yet even so this dark heavenly army made all beings feel a sense of dread. All heavenly soldiers, follow me and kill. The loud shout of the celestial calming god rang out. As soon as the words fell, tens of thousands of heavenly soldiers shouted in unison. The celestial Tao destiny within them fully erupted, wrapping around them like true sun fire, increasing their momentum dramatically. At this moment, at the edge of the void, Feng Xian and the 6 others who had sworn brotherhood with the Blood Prison Great Saint were also fighting fiercely, and from afar they were all shocked and alarmed. Brother, such a battlefield is not something we can meddle in. These people and those heavenly soldiers, they are simply insane. Heavenly soldiers are immortal and naturally fearless. Those people are fighting desperately for immortal fate. If second brother were here, he would definitely also fight desperately. Feng Xian listened to his brother's words without a sound. They kept their distance from each other, seemingly fighting individually, but actually cooperating, full of tacit understanding. Feng Xian's heart was also restless, hesitating whether to retreat. Search * the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He remembered that heavenly army who had previously captured them. If it hadn't been for the intervention of the supporting Dao Sword Venerable, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Although these heavenly soldiers were not a match for the supporting Dao Sword Venerable, their own strength was very formidable. But such a powerful heavenly army seemed like challengers on this void battlefield. Feng Xian gazed at the terrifying figure of the demonic Qilin, filled with dread and curiosity. Fight at the edge, do not approach. Feng Xian said, and the other 5 naturally had no objections. Unlike the warring factions, they had not decided to join any faction of the Son of Heaven. They came to observe the situation first, only to be entangled by a group of madmen upon arrival. These beings did not know them nor felt the same destiny, directly treating them as enemies. Now Feng Xian and the 6 seemed like a third-party faction, as beings from both great worlds would target them. Because they were here for immortal fate, they dared not go all out, rather they were restricted in their actions. This battlefield was merely a microcosm of the 3,000 great worlds, with hundreds of void battlefields fighting simultaneously, each battlefield featuring demonic Qilins and heavenly soldiers. All of this was in Gu Ain's eyes. Just the struggle for the Son of Heaven had sent out more than 10 million heavenly soldiers. The celestial court's foundation was deep indeed. In the memories of Zhou Xian, Guan had witnessed truly powerful heavenly armies, far beyond what these heavenly soldiers could compare. To enter the celestial court, one must at least be at the Taiqing Golden Immortal realm. Within the celestial court, there was a heavenly army with the lowest cultivation level being Taiqing Golden Immortal, which once dispatched 1 million soldiers to besiege those fierce demons. 1 million Taiqing Golden Immortals, how terrifying, and they were immortal. Destroyed, they could be revived with the celestial court's destiny. When Zhou Xian was besieged by the immortal gods of the celestial court, he often felt powerless. Even though the enemies were like insects in his eyes, he couldn't kill them. Over time, these insects posed a great nuisance to him, and moreover, the celestial court did not only send heavenly soldiers to besiege him. Each war in the struggle for the Son of Heaven would last for many years, fighting until one side completely lost their will to fight. Defeat would lead to escape, as many defeated beings, ashamed to face their master, would flee the struggle for the Son of Heaven, escaping to great worlds yet untouched by war. 1,000 years later, several uninvited guests fled to the celestial spirit great world. They did not come through the world gate, angering the celestial spirit god who directly killed them. This was just the beginning. In order to maintain his celestial authority, the celestial spirit god became the guardian of the celestial spirit great world. But as the invading beings grew stronger, the celestial spirit god of the heaven-balancing golden immortal realm began to feel pressure. Fortunately, the Tai immortal monarch timely assisted, sending the 72 immortals of Jin Dong to help capture the invaders of the celestial spirit great world. Guan was very satisfied with Tai immortal monarch's attitude. He acted even without instructions. Despite past grievances, once becoming allies, he became more and more pleased with Tai immortal monarch, even more so than the celestial spirit god. Over these millions of years, Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jin Dong did many things for the human world, leaving numerous legends and legacies of immortal gods. The development of the celestial spirit great world owed part of its success to them. Tai immortal monarch could not guess what Guan wanted, but he was sure that benefiting the celestial spirit great world would satisfy Guan. When Guan did not stop him, he felt he had found the right direction. As more and more outer heaven invaders arrived, they stirred up increasing chaos in the human world. Some took disciples whose masters might not reveal their purpose, and when the master died, the disciples naturally sought revenge, snowballing into hatred. This hatred even extended to the celestial spirit god, Tai immortal monarch, and other immortal gods. The immortal gods were indifferent, but they underestimated human nature. Another 50,000 years passed. The celestial spirit great world erupted in conflict. The 9 sects began to battle individually, and other sects quickly chose sides, starting to fight. Though the Dao court had dissolved, its legends remained, with many aspiring to achieve world unity. Stirred by or aided by outer heaven invaders, they could no longer suppress their ambitions. To the invaders, the more chaotic the world, the better they could hide. Above the sea of clouds, a magnificent giant red pavilion floated, with clouds rolling below. Occasionally there were ridge-like grand Qilin horns undulating, sparking imagination. Li Xuanmiao and the celestial destruction god stood side by side on the terrace, gazing into the distance. The celestial destruction god still wore divine armor, sharp and imposing, while Li Xuanmiao exhibited the transcendence of an enlightened immortal. This struggle for the Son of Heaven affects the 3,000 great worlds. Is it really all right? Li Xuanmiao asked, his eyes seeing the chaos in the 3,000 great worlds. The struggle for the Son of Heaven was far more terrifying than he imagined. What baffled him most was that the celestial court was unconcerned with the situation of the 3,000 great worlds. The immortal gods cared more about their own cultivation and were more vigilant about whether strong realms beyond the 3,000 great worlds had offensive intentions. I have heard that the celestial Dao Venerable possesses divine skills to create the 3,000 great worlds. Even if they annihilated, the Supreme would recreate them. The 3,000 great worlds are dispensable to the celestial court. The celestial destruction god said emotionlessly. Li Xuanmiao turned his head towards him and asked, "If that's the case, why create the 3,000 great worlds?" The celestial destruction god answered, "Because the 3,000 great worlds are established by the great Tao. If missing, the power of the great Tao would fill the void, affecting celestial Tao destiny. Moreover, the celestial court needs all living beings' worship to enhance destiny. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 754. The inevitable conclusion. The celestial destruction god's response made profound mystery think of many possibilities, and he began to suspect heavenly Tao itself. The two fell into silence, each lost in thought. The enormous red pavilion continued its journey, the mysterious ridged armor below subtly visible through the clouds, with a low thunder-like breathing sound faintly heard. "Alright, don't overthink it. You are already an immortal god and should no longer view problems from a mortal's perspective. Excessive compassion will only harm you. The celestial court has celestial rules. If you stay in the celestial court long enough, you'll realize that all your current concerns are meaningless." The celestial destruction god spoke. Although his immortal position was one rank lower than Profound Mystery, their relationship was very amiable, and Profound Mystery did not require him to be overly formal in private. Profound Mystery nodded and said, "Perhaps I really do need to adjust my mindset." Saying this, he still felt a deep dissatisfaction with the immortal gods. The reason he had followed Guan initially was that he believed Guan to be an immortal god. Later, real immortal gods appeared, but they were not like he had imagined. The true protector of all living beings was Guan. When he arrived at the celestial court, he held on to a faint hope that the celestial court internally would be compassionate towards all living beings, but that turned out not to be the case. In the celestial court, let alone compassion for mortal spirits, if he didn't initiate, not a single immortal god would mention the 3,000 great worlds. He heard more about Primordial Emperor Domain, Misty Immortal Court, Endless Tao Mountain, Abyss Tao Sea and other great Tao realms. The different levels made it difficult for Profound Mystery to adapt. The 3,000 great worlds had so little presence. How could he not feel disheartened? This struggle for the Son of Heaven is likely to last many years. It is said that the cultivation levels of the two Sons of Heaven are roughly the same, and now they are both in seclusion. No matter which side gains the upper hand, they will eventually face off against each other. The more destiny their camps accumulate beyond showcasing their talents, it also boosts their own destiny. Once the Sons of Heaven take action, the 3,000 great worlds are destined to turn to ashes. The celestial destruction god spoke softly and then paused before saying, "With the divine venerables around, the struggle for the Son of Heaven should not involve us. You can rest easy." See Teach Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Profound Mystery shook his head and said, "I'm not afraid of trouble. Never mind, let's not talk about this anymore. I heard the quota for the 100,000 stars has been opened. Are you really going to try?" The celestial destruction god nodded and said, "I managed to transfer from under the god of destruction to under the divine venerable. I must now complete the transformation of my divine authority. The stars are good. It allows for peaceful cultivation and easier access to the great Tao." Profound Mystery, being an immortal monarch, had yet to secure a specific immortal authority. However, he was not worried because his master, the radiant divine venerable, had already made arrangements for him. Now, apart from cultivation, he represented his master, walking through the heavenly realm, using his master's name to acquaint himself with various immortal gods. The two began discussing their upcoming travels. The immortal palace they were visiting also had significant backing, and even the celestial destruction god looked forward to this trip. He benefited from Profound Mystery's influence. This kind of visit wasn't just for conversation. They would either get to hear the Tao or receive the other's bounty. Not only did various immortal gods respect the radiant divine venerable, but they also had high hopes for Profound Mystery's future. Anyone who could pass the heavenly Daoist test and ascend had boundless potential. The test imposed by the heavenly Tao was a battle between mortal spirits and immortal gods, its difficulty nearly impossible to overcome. Despite the celestial court owning countless universes, those who could ascend like Profound Mystery were few and far between. Many relied on connections with immortal gods for selection to immortality. A day in heaven is a year on earth, and conflicts in the 3,000 great worlds were rapidly evolving. Another 10,000 years passed, and there was no pure land left in the 3,000 great worlds, filled everywhere with slaughter and war. This year, in the celestial spirit great world, sects were contending for supremacy externally, while evil demons invaded from outside. Even the celestial spirit god guarding the world gate experienced defeat. Disciples of Wuxia began to emerge, rescuing the suffering beings. In the imperial palace on the Taizong continent, Guan was playing chess with Li Xiandao. The weather was cool and a gentle breeze stroked their hair. At this moment, Li Xiandao frowned deeply, pondering. Guan casually waved a folding fan in one hand and held a teacup in the other, feeling utterly at ease. Even the 10 or so shooting stars streaking across the sky did not catch his attention. Li Xiandao took a deep breath and said, "I lost." He lifted his eyes to Guan, wanting to speak but hesitating. "You have something on your mind. Speak up, don't hold it in," Guan said with a smile. As long as he didn't deliberately avoid it, anyone's inner thoughts would directly reach his ears. However, some words still needed to be said by the other party. Li Xiandao stared at Guan intently and said, "There are unified sects in this world, but no unified imperial dynasty. Even the bygone holy court focused primarily on the immortal cultivation realm, disregarding the safety and well-being of common people. I want the Taizong dynasty to become the ruler of the world. I want to be an unprecedented emperor." Over the years, Li Xiandao had always been cautious, considering Guan in every decision to avoid disapproval, which was why the Taizong dynasty had remained problem-free. With Guan around, Li Xiandao never acted recklessly. But over time he too would feel weary and needed a greater goal to invigorate himself. "If you want to contend, then contend. I've never restricted or obstructed you, have I?" Guan said with a shake of his head and a laugh. Li Xiandao breathed a sigh of relief. It was good that Guan didn't mind. "Then I will strive for it." Over the years, the Taizong dynasty has been accumulating power. Since Yang Jian left, Long Ting has taken on the responsibilities. He is even stronger than Yang Jian. Speaking of this, pride filled Li Zuando's face. Long Ting was the son of Long Qing, equivalent to Gu An's grand disciple. By virtue of this relationship, Li Xiandao treated Long Ting very well, even allowing the Long family to grow strong. Long Ting did not disappoint him, never overstepping bounds. In both the court and among the people, there was just that Long Ting was more like a crown prince. Long Ting had indeed grown significantly, achieving the title of primordial Dao Emperor in his youth. Now he had reached the cultivation level of Daoist Zhongzhi Immortal. He was the face of the Taizong dynasty, and even if he did not take action, no force dared to offend the Taizong dynasty in the surrounding seas. He had come this far with considerable help from Gu, and Long Ting's magnanimous and upright character greatly aligned with Gu An's preferences. Now Guan spent more time visiting him than Long Qing. Li Xiandao was also a Daoist Zhongzhi Immortal, but he kept it well hidden. The world only knew him as a free immortal. The strength of his cultivation meant that Li Xiandao was no longer constrained by aristocratic families or sections. The Taizong dynasty truly belonged to him now. It was what he once dreamed of. Guan smiled and said, "Then let me see how far you can go. Anyway, I won't be helping you. In my eyes, the Taizong dynasty is no different from any other dynasty in the world. I hope you understand this." In stern tones, Li Xiandao said, "Of course. How could we ask you to intervene in conquering the world? How would the world even play a part if you did? To be honest, the reason I want to unify the world is not only for the sake of all living beings but more so to realize my own ideals. I want to become a figure in the celestial spirit great world's history who is never forgotten. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 755. The Immortal Lectures regarding Li Zuando's ambition. Guan gave no comment. Every person has their own goals, and even the greatest people have their private thoughts. He himself is such a person. Li Xiandao has the right to choose his own life as long as he does not bring calamity to the entire world. There are so many evil people in this world and many who stir up warfare. Killing them all is impossible. After chatting with Li Xiandao for half a day, Guan wandered alone in the Taizong dynasty, while Li Xiandao excitedly returned to the imperial study to start planning his military campaign. Unlike the chaos in various places, the Taizong continent has always been peaceful, unaffected by the trends of the world. However, even in peaceful lands there are people in suffering. If Guan encounters them, he does not hesitate to help. He has the ability to save the world, but he does not do so because of the laws of the Great Tao. Helping individuals is simply because he wishes to. Sometimes when he sees the fate of some people change because of him, Guan feels a sense of joy. His figure disappeared into the vast crowd of the city, seemingly inconspicuous and insignificant to this world. In the void, countless sword shadows floated in all directions, forming a spectacular sword array. Each sword shadow was larger than stars, and within the array stood a disheveled red-clothed sword cultivator, holding a sword, surrounded by violent and chaotic sword chi. His gaze fixed on Liya outside the sword array. Though far apart, their eyes met, causing intense spatial fluctuations along the way. Liya, dressed in black, pointed his finger like a sword, his sword intent emanating naturally. In the dark void behind him, a dreadful sword shadow stood, formed by his sword intent. Such powerful sword intent. Clearly, your cultivation level is just beginning to enter the Daoist collection freedom immortal realm, but the strength of your sword intent grants you the ability to excel within your realm. The red-clothed sword cultivator spoke, his tone full of admiration, seemingly unfazed by the sword array before him. Li Ya's eyes were cold, staring at him, and asked, "From which realm do you come? Why have you come to the celestial spirit great world? Why have you sacrificed so many souls to your sword Dao?" The red-clothed sword cultivator laughed and said, "I come from the Qingyu great world, which you should not have heard of. As for why I have come, there are unavoidable reasons. I am severely injured, my sword intent suffering karma retribution, and I need numerous souls to heal." Liya frowned, surprised at the other's honesty. Despite the severe injuries, he still possesses such strength. Li Ya's heart was filled with hesitation, not fearing the red-clothed sword cultivator but realizing that powerful cultivators like him from outer heaven are increasing. Some, like the red-clothed sword cultivator, use lives for healing, while others establish sects with hidden ambitions. Whether inside or outside heaven, the situation grows increasingly chaotic. Seeing your aptitude, I can forgive your offense. Serve as my sword slave and I can show you higher realms. This great world will only become more chaotic, and one day even the immortal gods guarding it will struggle to survive. The red-clothed sword cultivator looked at Liya, sneering as he spoke. At his words, Liya felt countless eyes in the dark observing him like cold snakes and scorpions, making him uncomfortable. Boom! A terrifying impact came from the dark depths, stirring the Tao spiritual qi along the way, causing Li Ya's black clothes to flutter, making him instinctively turn to look. Siege Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He saw two figures exuding terrifying auras rapidly colliding in the distance, their movement techniques far surpassing his perception, making him heart-poundingly fearful. One of those auras should belong to the legendary celestial spirit god. The celestial Tao destiny and the celestial Tao light layer of the celestial spirit great world were completely alike, only more oppressive. Even the celestial god is entangled? Liya thought secretly, and at that moment, a fierce wind blew towards him, making him instinctively turn back. His pupils dilated as he saw the red-clothed sword cultivator penetrate his sword array, killing towards him. The red-clothed sword cultivator had a grim and horrifying smile, reaching out his right hand for Li Ya's head, like a vengeful ghost extending its hand. Under the bright sun in a bustling and prosperous city, Guan leaned against a courtyard wall, holding a large chicken leg. As he chewed, he said indistinctly, "Zhao Zilong marched through an army of millions, relying on a long spear and a white horse to charge in and out, staining the baby in his arms with blood. In front of him stood a dozen children, both boys and girls, the oldest no more than 13, the youngest just over 5, all nervously watching Guan, waiting for him to continue." Guan stopped, swallowing hard as if he choked, and gently patted his chest. "Meat alone isn't enough. Who will sneak a jar of wine from home for me?" Guan asked with a smile, causing the children to burst into an uproar. "You already spent a lot of our money on this roast chicken and now you want a drink? How can you be like that? The chicken isn't finished yet and you want a drink? Liar." Big liar. Continue the story. How can you stop here? The children were anxious, some raising their small fists as if they wanted to hit Guan. The people playing in the street looked over curiously. Most found it odd that Guan, who dressed richly, would argue with a group of children. Mothers with children quickly moved away, fearing Guan was a bad person. Guan smiled even wider, his eyes glinting. What do you understand? If you bought the book Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it would cost more than a roast chicken. If you hired a storyteller of my caliber, it would cost even more, far beyond the price of a jar of wine or a chicken. You've got a good deal. An older boy argued angrily. Stop lying. It's not an immortal book. It can't be that expensive. Hey, don't say. There's indeed a version of Romance of the Three Kingdoms about immortal cultivation. Do you know what cultivation technique Zhou Xian practiced? Gu An's words quickly dispelled the boy's anger, replaced with curiosity as other children also showed curious expressions. Guan did not continue to speak but started to devour the chicken leg rapidly, the children urging him. Bang! A figure fell from the sky, landing on a nearby street, raising rolling dust and a strong wind, scaring the children in front of Guan into screams. The people in the street began to flee, turning everything into chaos. As the dust settled, two figures appeared. It was the red-clothed sword cultivator and Li Ya. The red-clothed sword cultivator held Li Ya by the neck with one hand, raising him in the air, covered in blood and very miserable. Still refused to submit? I've been very restrained. Otherwise this city would have turned to ashes. If you don't agree, I'll extract the souls of everyone in this city before your eyes to offer as sacrifices, the red-clothed sword cultivator sneered. Then his gaze swept around and quickly focused on Guan and the group of children gathered by the courtyard wall, making them stand out conspicuously. Li Ya faced away from Guan, unable to sense his presence, but noticed the red-clothed sword cultivator's gaze, glancing with his peripheral vision. His pupils shrank and a strange smile appeared on his face. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 756. Unknown threat. Li Ya was delighted when he saw Guan, so a smile appeared on his face, but this delight was quickly replaced by embarrassment. SAR the novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Every time he met Guan he bragged about how free he was outside. Previously, Li Xianyu had exposed his lies in front of Guan, saying he often got injured. It was hard for him to cope with that, and this time he got caught red-handed by Guan. How could he not be embarrassed? The red-clothed sword cultivator noticed the change in Li Ya's expression. He squinted at Guan, who was surrounded by children, and sneered, "You know this person?" Li Ya replied with difficulty, "I advise you not to act recklessly or else." Before he finished speaking, the red-clothed sword cultivator grabbed him and appeared out of nowhere, standing before the children, scaring them away with cries. The red-clothed sword cultivator scrutinized Guan and asked, "Did you come specifically to rescue him? How could there be such a coincidence? He descended from the sky, chose a random city, and yet he encountered the captive's acquaintance." Guan looked at the red-clothed sword cultivator and smiled. "I could be or maybe not. If you put him down now, there might still be room to settle the conflict between you two." Humph. The red-clothed sword cultivator snorted coldly and suddenly reached out towards Guan, moving as swiftly as lightning. Boom! A gust of wind arose out of nowhere, shaking everything on the street. The robes of the red-clothed sword cultivator and Li Ya fluttered violently, their eyes widened with fear. Impossible. His hand was blocked by an invisible force, unable to touch Guan. What astonished him the most was that the aura he released should have been enough to obliterate everything within a million miles. Yet apart from the strong wind, nothing was destroyed around him. In a split second he realized the vast difference in power between him and his opponent. Even if he wasn't seriously injured, he wouldn't be a match for this person. Here. The red-clothed sword cultivator hurriedly spoke, but before he could finish, Guan's eyes turned cold and he turned to ash. But Li Ya fell to the ground, half kneeling, and touched his throat, feeling the cold mana dissipating. He turned to Guan and couldn't help but ask, "Did you come specifically to rescue me? You have successfully taken 31,782,281 years of lifespan from the Red Sword Ghost Demon, late stage of heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. Only 31 million years of lifespan, a bit too little. Guan replied, I have been in this city for 2 days, telling those children the story of the romance of the 3 kingdoms. I've almost finished half of it. Upon hearing this, Liya was horrified. Could it be that Guan had foreseen things to this extent? That red-clothed sword cultivator randomly chose a place to descend but happened to land near Guan. During the descent he didn't feel Guan's presence, which means Guan really calculated that he would come here, and it was 2 days ago. Liya was now the primordial Dao Emperor. His cultivation level had reached the Daoist collection freedom immortal realm, and he had his understanding of the path of cause and effect derivation. However, he still couldn't fathom how Guan did it. It was too incredible. Seeing Liya's terrified expression, Guan asked with a smile, What? Do you want me to reveal a bit of heavenly secrets to you? Like today's calamity you will face more of in the future. No. I don't want to know. Liya hurriedly interrupted, extremely flustered. Even so, Guan's words already left him cold. Would he face similar troubles in the future? Although he often got injured and said he didn't mind, who would want to get hurt if they could avoid it? Liya wasn't a masochist. He didn't fight to get badly injured every time. Unfortunately, his strength was inadequate. Guan changed the topic and asked, Do you need my help to heal? Liya's face turned awkward and he shook his head in refusal. Then take your time recovering. I'm leaving. Guan said these words and disappeared from where he stood. Was it Liya's illusion, or did he see Guan's lips curl into a smile when he turned around? The feeling of relief from surviving was quickly replaced by embarrassment and shame, making him wish he could find a hole to crawl into. He could only try to think positively that junior brother Gu had saved him more than once and he should get used to it. Just the thought of being held by the throat and lifted into the air made his face flush with embarrassment. He didn't want to face Guan, and luckily Guan didn't stay longer. According to junior brother Gu, the world will become even more chaotic in the future. Liya thought worriedly, seemingly unable to escape the feeling of powerlessness no matter how high his cultivation level reached. The path of the great Tao was indeed long. When could he become like junior brother Gu with the ability to laugh at the world? Dust flew as Liya stood on the street, lost in thought until the presence of approaching civilians brought him back to reality, then he vanished from the spot. Rescuing Liya was just a minor episode. Guan didn't mind much. If it wasn't for this catastrophe that left Liya with no hope, he wouldn't have intervened even if Liya suffered a lot. But this incident was enough to prove that the celestial spirit Great World had been forced into the struggle for the Son of Heaven. Besides hiding and creating chaos, some of the outsiders were also working for the Son of Heaven to win over the major sections. In Guan's view, the celestial spirit Great World would inevitably fall into turmoil. More and more outer heaven visitors and immortal gods appeared, causing the future of the celestial spirit Great World to change daily, all reflected in Guan's eyes. He saw countless outcomes in the future. Knowing all results, he could choose the destiny he was satisfied with, but for now he didn't want to intervene. As long as the celestial court didn't invade the celestial spirit Great World on a large scale, other situations were just minor skirmishes. In a good mood, Guan walked through the mountains humming a tune while observing the changes in the destiny of heaven and earth. He saw many people's hardships. Even the Tai immortal monarch and the 72 immortals of Jingdong would fall into dire situations. On the other side, among the continuous mountains on a hillside, the 72 immortals of Jingdong were distributed, some meditating and cultivating, some comprehending the rules of heaven and earth, others deducing the future. The purple dragon star monarch looked towards the horizon, his brows furrowed slightly. A female immortal approached him curiously and asked, "Senior brother, what are you looking at? You've been frowning for quite a while." The purple dragon star monarch softly replied, "Something is watching the celestial spirit Great World. Even I cannot fully deduce its cause." The female immortal said indifferently, "Now that the struggle for the Son of Heaven has begun, even though the 3,000 great worlds are inhabited by mortal spirits, there are always some Daoists. Perhaps someone is weighing whether to hide in this world." "No, it doesn't feel like a mortal spirit." The purple dragon star monarch shook his head. These words made the female immortal feel surprised. "Not a mortal spirit? You mean a Son of Heaven has targeted the celestial spirit Great World?" the female immortal asked. The purple dragon star monarch replied, "It's not a son of heaven and it's not even an immortal. I can't say for sure, but maybe something wants to take advantage of the struggle for the son of heaven to commit evil in the 3,000 great worlds." Upon hearing this, the female immortal's face turned serious. Although the celestial court seemed unshakable, there were many hidden enemies, not just within the range of the celestial Tao destiny, but also many terrible beings in the chaos watching the celestial court, waiting for an opportunity. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Do you think you can call for the ancestor so casually? An impatient voice came and Duanli saw a figure emerge from the depths of the forest. Upon seeing the person's face, Duanli quickly bowed respectfully. "Grandmaster LV." Duanli said respectfully, his body tense. LV Xian walked up to him looking displeased. "Why were you calling out for the ancestor?" Today he had some free time and wandered into this forest. He had a vague impression of Duanli, remembering him as a 7th-generation disciple, given the number of disciples within the beginningless Daoist field. "Just now the ancestor taught me a cultivation technique. I wanted to thank him," Duanli answered truthfully. There had never been any incidents of fellow disciples harming each other within the beginningless, so Duanli felt no need for caution and answered whatever his grandmaster asked. "Oh." LV Xian raised his eyebrows. He believed Duanli wouldn't lie, especially since this was the beginningless Daoist field. His master hadn't taken on new disciples for many years, let alone guided grand disciples in cultivation. Could there be something special about this boy? LV Xian scrutinized Duanli closely, making the latter very uneasy. Duanli wanted to escape, but he didn't dare offend LV Xian. LV Xian couldn't discern anything unusual about Duanli, so he casually asked, "What's the name of the cultivation technique the ancestor taught you?" His master had created many techniques, and different techniques could indicate how much his master valued this boy. "Destiny-defying divine skill," Duanli answered cautiously. "Destiny-defying divine skill." LV Xian was stunned, standing rooted to the spot. Wasn't this his father LV Baishan's cultivation technique? His father had been dead for a long time. Usually he wouldn't even think about his father. Growing up, knowing his body housed another soul, he harbored deep hatred for his father, wanting to personally kill him. But gradually he came to understand. Because he was busy exploring the outside world, he missed his father's funeral. He seemed indifferent, but a thorn remained in his heart. Unexpectedly, his master still remembered his father. LV Xian recalled how long ago his father often discussed with him how to cultivate Guan into the next sect leader. Those years were long gone. The specific memories were fading and his father's face had become blurred. "Grandmaster LV? Are you all right?" Duanli asked nervously, feeling anxious. Could this destiny-defying divine skill have some great significance? He believed the ancestor wouldn't harm him, but he feared the significant background of this skill might be beyond his capacity. LV Xian came to his senses, showing a complex smile. "Nothing, cultivate well. Since you've got the true teachings from the master, your fortune is deep. Cherish it well. If you disgrace this technique, it'll be the first to deal with you." These words made Duanli's legs tremble, making LV Xian shake his head with a smile before turning to leave. He needed to reflect on the past to avoid forgetting his origins. LV Xian suddenly understood why his master often daydreamed. Perhaps it was to recall the past, to always remember who he was. In the following days, the news of Duanli receiving teachings from Guan spread throughout the dojo, arousing curiosity among all disciples. Even 2nd-generation disciples summoned him to observe his talents and comprehension. Unfortunately, Duanli did not exhibit greater aptitude than other disciples. However, this did not disappoint the disciples. Instead, it heightened their anticipation. The master couldn't possibly mistake. Even if Duanli didn't seem exceptional received by the master, he would certainly excel in the future. Thus 10 years quickly passed. Since imparting the skill to Duanli, Guan had not sought him out again. This morning he heard of a great power preaching at the endless Dao mountain, which piqued his interest and he decided to attend. The great power was a Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal with profound Dao practice. Listening to the teachings would definitely be beneficial. However, Guan's true self needed to pick medicinal herbs, So he sent a clone, suppressing its cultivation level to the heaven-opening Daoyuo immortal realm. The clone moved at great speed, soon entering the endless Dao Mountains domain. In the dim sky, the majestic Dao Mountain peaks loomed amidst the spiritual fog, mysterious and solemn. Guan flew towards an old acquaintance, Hongyazi, who had been very hospitable during their first meeting, introducing him to many fellow Daoists. Since Hongyazi was also here, it was natural to go see him. Approaching the Dao Mountain of the Great Power preaching, Guan soon spotted Hongyazi. As before, he was chatting and laughing with several cultivators, enjoying the moment. Hongyazi was the first to notice Guan, exclaiming with joy, "Fellow Daoist Menglang, long time no see. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 758. Jiang Relai. Beyond the heavenly Dao. Looking at Hongyazi, Guan smiled and nodded at him. Hongyazi, after saying a few words to those around him, flew towards Guan. It had been millions of years since their last meeting, and Hongyazi was as enthusiastic as ever, holding Guan's hand and having endless things to talk about. Guan knew that the misty immortal court had had a rough time over the years. The Son of Heaven had been putting pressure on them, hoping they would participate in the struggle for the Son of Heaven, but the misty immortal court had its own pride and repeatedly refused. The Son of Heaven's patience had worn thin, and this put great pressure on the misty immortal court. Hongyazi came to unwind and had no intention of getting involved in the matters of the misty immortal court. The two chatted for a while and then ascended Dao Mountain together. Along the way, Hongyazi introduced Guan to this Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal named Jiang Relai, who was born in the primordial emperor domain. He had once been part of the immortal class, later reincarnated and started his cultivation anew, breaking free from the celestial court's destiny. No one knew how long he had lived. When Hongyazi was young, he had heard of Jiang Relai's name. His admiration for Jiang Relai clearly surpassed that for the white-haired ancestor. After ascending the mountain, the two arrived at Jiang Relai's dojo, which was vast and already filled with many people meditating. They found a corner and sat down. Listening to Hongyazi recount Jiang Relai's deeds, Guan looked forward to seeing Jiang Relai even more. Although Guan's cultivation level was higher than Jiang Relai's, he likely had not lived as long as Jiang Relai. Even the venerable Zhou Xian had lived through accelerated periods to achieve enlightenment, which requires the accumulation of years. Perhaps the conversation grew deeper as Hongyazi couldn't help lamenting the misty immortal court's stance towards the celestial court. Many of their fellow immortals who had ascended urged them to submit, but if the misty immortal court became the lackeys of the Son of Heaven, their status would surely decline, unless this Son of Heaven truly became the celestial emperor. Otherwise, the path in the celestial court for the misty immortal court would only get narrower. Hongyazi couldn't understand what those fellow immortals were thinking, being so bold as to gamble the fate of the misty immortal court. Perhaps they have their reasons, Guan comforted him. Hongyazi thought the same but was still filled with dissatisfaction towards those fellow immortal gods. Time passed quickly. A full 100 years passed before Jiang Relai descended. By then, the dojo had gathered hundreds of thousands of listeners, a grand scale with the lowest cultivation level being heaven-balancing golden immortal. Jiang Relai was enveloped in Dao light, with only Guan able to see his true form. This person had skin like white jade, a face difficult to distinguish between male and female, with an extreme coldness between the eyebrows. Wearing a golden robe and a crown with golden horns resembling a flood dragon, he appeared like a supreme divine king descending, with a dharma aspect of the world behind him, exuding overwhelming dominance. Because of the Dao light surrounding him, other listeners could not see Jiang Relai's true form, but this did not prevent them from being shocked by his aura. The moment Jiang Relai appeared, the entire dojo fell silent. "I have traveled through chaos and Hongmeng and gained much insight. Today I will expound the Tao of creation for you all," Jiang Relai's voice resounded, his tone indifferent but carrying immense authority that left no room for doubt. Creation? Guan was intrigued and began to look forward to Jiang Relai's lecture. Without further ado, Jiang Relai began his lecture. The vast Tao intent, as immense as the ocean, enveloped the entire dojo, making all the listeners feel as if they were journeying through chaos along with Jiang Relai. Chaos was even more vast than the Tao universe, with chaotic spiritual energy surging, everything appearing bizarre and fantastical, and seeming to have immortal spirits traversing without leaving any traces. Guan was also immersed in it. This lecture lasted 30,000 years. After 30,000 years, all the listeners felt as if they had been abruptly pulled out of a dream, feeling a sense of loss. Guan looked up at Zhang Rulai, who still sat high on the Dao platform, radiating boundless Dao light unrivaled in the world. Sitting beside him, Hongyazi opened his eyes, and after a brief moment of confusion, showed a look of longing. Such vast creation Dao. If I could obtain even 1/10 of his achievement, I could surpass my current realm obstacle, Hongyazi praised, and Guan nodded slightly, not saying a word. Sar the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He noticed that Zhang Rulai was gazing at a certain place outside Endless Dao Mountain with a serious look, seemingly on guard against something. Far away in the Daoist field of the beginningless, Gu Anna's true self followed Zhang Rulai's gaze, crossing countless universes and arriving outside the heavenly Dao, close to the void near chaos, where a deep red mist was approaching the heavenly Dao. Gu Anna's true self raised an eyebrow. He could sense the incredibly terrifying power within that deep red mist. It should be noted that he was now at the peak of the Xianxia primordial immortal realm. If something could make him feel threatened, it was certainly not simple. Looking towards the celestial court as expected, a large number of immortal gods were flying towards the palace of the pole star, obviously startled by this mysterious force. Since the celestial court was already paying attention, Guan did not need to worry too much. The celestial spirit Great World was located at the edge of the 3,000 Great Worlds, not within the range of the celestial Dao destiny. For this mysterious force to threaten the celestial spirit Great World, it would first have to break through the celestial court's layer of destiny. For the celestial court, destiny was its lifeblood, and it would certainly not let it have its way. Vaguely, Guan saw some unseen and untouchable threads of cause and effect within the deep red mist, connecting with the 3,000 great worlds of the heavenly Dao. With his cultivation level, it was difficult to perceive these threads of cause and effect without careful observation. It must be known that he primarily cultivated the way of cause and effect. No wonder I have always felt there would be changes in the struggle for the Son of Heaven. It turns out the changes come from outside the heavenly Dao, Guan thought silently. Although this crisis was not directed at him, he still believed it would be wise to break through as soon as possible. Once I reach a lifespan of 2 billion years, I will break through, Guan decided in his heart. Meanwhile, at Endless Dao Mountain within the dojo, Zhang Rulai spoke. The path of creation is the cornerstone of the 3,000 Great Dao. Even the Great Dao itself is a creation. I hope you can understand the profound mystery of creation and attain the Dao soon. After speaking, he stood up. Tens of thousands of listeners also stood up and saluted him. Zhang Rulai sought nothing from his lecturing, yet it was deserving of their bowing in respect. Zhang Rulai transformed into a rainbow light and disappeared into the dim cloud sea. Guan saw him flying in the direction of the celestial court. It seemed that although he had broken free from the celestial court, he still had connections with it. Fellow Daoist Meng, where will you go next? Hongyazi looked at Guan and asked with a smile. Guan heard his inner voice and answered, I plan to continue my journey through the myriad realms of the Great Dao. Hongyazi wanted to follow him and see his dojo, but he didn't want to return to the misty immortal court. However, he couldn't bring Hongyazi back to the celestial spirit Great World. In that case, why don't we travel together? Hongyazi suggested with a smile. Guan had no objections and nodded in agreement. After all, he was just an avatar. Where he went and what he did would not affect his true self, harvesting medicinal herbs. Seeing Guan agree, Hongyazi was even happier. He grabbed Guan's wrist and asked, Then let's go, fellow Daoist Meng. Where do you think we should go first? I want to take a look at the underworld. Just as well, I have acquaintances in the Nine Divine Mansion of the underworld. The profound abyss ancient tree of the Nine Divine Mansion is about to bear fruit. Perhaps we can witness a spectacle. Is that so? That's perfect. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 759. Dark Divine Sect. When Gu Anna's avatar traveled to the underworld with Hongyazi, Gu Anna's true form maintained his usual life rhythm, occasionally glancing at the deep crimson mist beyond the heavenly Dao. The sweeping speed of the deep crimson mist was fast, yet slow compared to the vastness of the Great Dao, and it wouldn't touch the boundary of the celestial Dao destiny in a short time. It was worth noting that the celestial court hadn't taken any action against the deep crimson mist. Guan saw numerous immortal gods fly into the palace of the pole star, then scatter away together as if nothing had happened. Could it be that the deep crimson mist involved some great cause and effect that made the celestial court cautious? Guan couldn't help but think of Taihao. It was unknown when the ethereal celestial emperor would emerge from seclusion. Perhaps the immortal gods were awaiting the celestial emperor. As one great thousand world was completely conquered by another, the struggle for the Son of Heaven became intensely fierce. Both camps were utterly ruthless, casting these 3,000 great worlds into an era of dark turmoil. The greater the survival pressure, the more it would stimulate the birth of exceptionally talented beings. 27,000 years had passed since Jiang Rulei's teaching concluded. On this day just past noon, Guan rested in the courtyard, his body lying on a rocking chair, gently swaying. I am the true monarch Qitian. Today I shall rescue the demon emperor. I dare anyone to try and stop me. A domineering roar resounded throughout the world, startling Xianxia, who opened her eyes before the artifact refining cauldron. Not just her, all the disciples in the dojo heard, which piqued their curiosity. Qitian, true lord, did you read your journey to the west again? Xianxia turned her head to Guan, asking teasingly. Guan didn't open his eyes, his face covered by a round fan, softly saying, "Who knows?" to yell while rescuing someone either arrogant or foolish. Xianxia laughed. Whether successful or not, at least all living beings will remember his name, and know of his act to rescue the demon emperor. Beneath the round fan, the corner of Guan's mouth lifted slightly, but he didn't reply. Cultivators across the world indeed were discussing the name of true monarch Qitian. This guy truly intended to rescue the demon emperor. Confident in his broad divine skills, he believed it would be successful. Yet before he even saw the demon emperor, he was jointly suppressed by the 9 sect cultivators. Though the 9 major sects had begun to slaughter each other, they never ignored the demon emperor, dispatching great cultivators to guard him without concern for the wider world, their sole duty to watch over the demon emperor. After several days of great warfare, true monarch Qitian was thrown into the demon emperor's cave mansion, enduring endless days of darkness together. Interestingly, this true monarch Qitian was related to Guan. His ancestor was How Long, once raised by Guan roaming the human world. How Long already carried a divine name. Occasionally returning to the Daoist field of the beginningless, he spent most of his time wandering and frolicking in the human world, his progeny numerous, truly upholding the dragon's dignity. In the dim cave chamber, heavy breathing echoed continuously. In the center sat a man in white clothes. Though his robes were torn, he remained unstained by dust, possessing an extraordinary aura. He was the demon emperor. In the corner of the cave loomed a curled shadow, like a fearsome giant serpent, from which the breathing came. If you're afraid, just bow and admit your mistakes to them, there might be a way out. The demon emperor spoke with closed eyes, his tone indifferent. At these words, demonic chi surged from the darkness, rushing towards the demon emperor. Silence! How could I be afraid? A furious shout erupted, revealing the fearsome shadow morphing into a disheveled man stepping forward. This man was none other than true monarch Qitian, with 2 sharp dragon horns sprouting from his head. He glared at the demon emperor angrily, saying, "Great sage, equaling heaven was suppressed for 500 years without begging for mercy. How could I be afraid? Though I don't know who great sage is, 500 years can't compare to 1,000,000. Their patience far exceeds your imagination." The demon emperor spoke without opening his eyes. True monarch Qitian calmed down, confusedly asking, "They've imprisoned you for so long, for what? Couldn't they kill you?" "Of course. If they could kill me, they would have done it already. Perhaps in the depths of destiny, heaven doesn't want me dead." The demon emperor's words piqued true monarch Qitian's curiosity. "What divine skill have you cultivated making you unkillable? You should care about yourself first, figuring out how to endure the millennia ahead." True monarch Qitian, upon hearing this, sat cross-legged before the demon emperor and said, "Although I haven't been imprisoned for millennia, I've spent years in seclusion. At worst, I'll cultivate here." His eyes roamed, observing the demon emperor's exceptional aura, steady as a rock. He suddenly felt this might be his great opportunity. Just like the myths, surviving catastrophe could bring fortune. Perhaps he could learn the undying divine skill from the demon emperor. Sun Wukong in Journey to the West possessed an immortal body. Even the celestial court couldn't subdue him. The demon emperor remained silent, while true monarch Qitian watched him, scratching his head, pondering. The days of suppression were far harsher and more despairing than true monarch Qitian had anticipated. Endless hopelessness would be a form of extreme torment. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As time passed, true monarch Qitian's excitement and curiosity gradually faded, turning to agitation and rage, until all emotions were eradicated, leaving only numbness. Another 1,000,000 years passed. Guwen had just returned from the Hidden Spirit Palace, entering the courtyard as an Exin quickly approached. Master, recently a sect named Dark God Sect appeared in the human world. They widely spread scriptures, urging mortal spirits to believe in the Dark God, claiming darkness and light coexist. Though the world remains bright, bones litter the land and people's hearts find no redemption. The Dark God will bring darkness to the world's dangers, offering salvation in the darkness. An Exin spoke with deep concern, deeply wary of the Dark God Sect. Guwen asked, "Has the Dark God Sect started disrupting the human world?" No, locating their sect is impossible. Only numerous scriptures are spread, misleading hearts. The Immortal Cultivation sect is busy fighting and vying for power, neglecting the Dark God Sect. But I've deduced it and can't see through them. There's something unusual behind the Dark God Sect. An Exin spoke earnestly, staring at Guwen, hoping her master could provide answers. Guwen looked towards the celestial vault and said, "The Dark God indeed exists. He has arrived, observing this human world." And Xin's eyes widened and she asked, "Where is he? What does he look like?" Guwen didn't respond, calmly watching the celestial vault. Beyond the celestial spirit great world, in infinite darkness, sat a skeletal figure. Leg bones supported the hand bones, within the palms burned green flames, manifesting countless worldly scenes, rapidly transforming. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 760. The Calamity from Beyond the Heavenly Tao. The white skeleton in the darkness sat motionless. Only the green flame in its palms flickered continuously, looking bewitching and eerie. After an indeterminate amount of time, its skull slowly trembled, dark eyes opened under its brow bone, representing the ultimate evil of the great Tao, profound and terrifying. It slowly lifted its right hand, its bones spread apart, and 7 small bones wrapped in black mist flew out, disappearing into the darkness in the blink of an eye. Having done all this, it closed its eyes again and continued to fall into slumber. Far away in the celestial spirit great world, Guwen did not tell an Exin about the origin of the Dark Divine Sect, but said that the Dark God resided in the outer heaven, making an Exin frequently look up to the sky, but she could see nothing, which only increased her desire for a higher realm. Under the background of world conflict, the Dark Divine Sect, although drawing some attention, was not yet powerful enough to participate in the struggle for supremacy, so the major immortal cultivation sects did not pay much attention. Unbeknownst to anyone, the Dark Divine Sect rapidly developed, eventually infiltrating various major sections. Those who were disillusioned and consumed by hatred were attracted to the ideals of the Dark Divine Sect, and they even saw the divine presence of the Dark God in their dreams, which obsessed them and drove them to madness. 50,000 years later, the Dark Divine Sect had become an unignorable force in the human world, with followers in every sect. However, the Dark Divine Sect could not stop the wars in the human world. Years of fighting had built up irreconcilable hatreds among the sects, and even if the Dark Divine Sect stirred up trouble within them, they could not put aside their immediate enmity and interests. In the depths of the universe before the world gate, Celestial Spirit God Tai Immortal Monarch, the 72 Immortals of Golden Cave, and Emperor Tianhong gathered here. Having regained his immortal position, Emperor Tianhong radiated with immortal light, brighter than the distant stars. At this moment, the faces of Celestial Spirit God, Tai Immortal Monarch, and the 72 Immortals of Golden Cave were extremely grave. They surrounded Emperor Tianhong, all remaining silent. Celestial Spirit God was the first to break the silence and asked, Are we sure this is related to the chaos evil demon beyond the heavenly Tao? Emperor Tianhong nodded and said, the chaos beyond the heavenly Tao is vast and boundless. Whether it is truly a chaos evil demon remains uncertain. The only thing certain is that there is an infiltration from beyond the heavenly Tao. Their methods are unbelievable and hard to capture. The celestial court is also observing the changes. One thing I can confirm is that the dark divine sect is a variable from beyond the heavenly Tao. Tai Immortal Monarch followed up. The rise of the dark divine sect is indeed too rapid. Without being able to deduce its origin, we can only speculate from the cause and effect beyond the heavenly Tao. The 72 immortals of Golden Cave glanced at each other. Though they remained silent, the worry on their faces grew heavier. As heavenly court immortals, they were indifferent to the beings of the heavenly Tao but held great dread towards everything beyond the heavenly Tao due to numerous stories they had heard. In some respects, their indifference to the beings of the heavenly Tao was because their attention was focused beyond the heavenly Tao. What should we do now? If we let this continue, the celestial spirit great world may really come under the dominion of the dark divine sect. A Golden Cave immortal asked. They were not considering the well-being of the celestial spirit great world's beings but were thinking of Guan. They were now serving Guan, and if the celestial spirit great world were taken over by the dark divine sect, it would certainly affect Guan, which would signify their incompetence. Tai Immortal Monarch pondered, perhaps it is not that difficult. That existence has not instructed us, indicating the crisis is not yet substantial enough to disturb him. With his cultivation level he should be able to perceive threats beyond the heavenly Tao. These words made sense to the assembled immortals. Xianxia the novel, Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan could face the eternal life venerable, his cultivation level unfathomable. Regardless, although he has not given instructions, we cannot just stand by. Let's investigate together, Tai Immortal Monarch ordered. The immortals had no objections and soon dispersed. Celestial spirit gods stood at the world gate, watching the departing figure of Tai Immortal Monarch and could not help but sigh, just this composure alone is beyond me. Even knowing the cause and effect related to the dark divine sect beyond the heavenly Tao, Tai Immortal Monarch did not hastily seek out Guan but continued to act, intending to prove himself. If it were him he would certainly have sought out Guan, believing Guan possessed greater insight. But then again, if Guan could perceive it, what difference would it make if he asked or not? And if Guan could not perceive it, telling him would not change the already established existence of the dark divine sect. According to his understanding of Guan, even if Guan could not fully understand the cause and effect of the dark divine sect, he would still not be completely unaware of its presence. Celestial spirit god no longer thought about it and turned his gaze to the world gate. Within the celestial spirit great world, the chaotic forces grew stronger, and the matters he could oversee became fewer. Guarding the world gate was his immortal position, a duty he had to ensure. At the very least he could not allow intruders to break into the celestial spirit great world through the world gate. Celestial Court, Guangfa Immortal Palace. In the vast hall, Li Xuanmiao, celestial destruction god, and hundreds of other immortals sat, maintaining a certain distance from each other. Each presented their dharma aspect, resplendent and beautiful, exuding the unique aura of immortals. Guangfa Tai Guang Divine Venerable sat at the head, overlooking all the immortals in the hall. Today's topic: how should the celestial court deal with the dark god from the chaos? Guangfa Tai Guang Divine Venerable spoke, and the immortals, his disciples, fell into contemplation even before he spoke. A white-haired elder at the front spoke first. The dark god differs from the chaos evil demons we know. He originates from the great Tao, sharing the same source. Simply eliminating his avatar cannot resolve the problem at the root. Perhaps we should start from what he desires. The dark god spreads faith, following a path akin to the celestial courts, relying on worship. If all living beings don't yearn for darkness, he has no opportunity. This statement immediately prompted another immortal to respond. Easier said than done. The battle for the position of Son of Heaven has already begun. The two candidates will not relent, and neither will the immortal factions backing them. How can we end the catastrophe of the 3,000 great worlds? If it doesn't end, the hearts of all living beings will harbor darkness. At this, more immortals began to speak, each offering their opinions, and some even quarreled, making the atmosphere in the hall intense. Li Xuanmiao sat near the front but remained silent, patiently listening. Celestial Destruction God sat at the back and dared not speak lightly, knowing this was a test by Guangfa Tai Guang Divine Venerable, requiring cautious handling. After a long time, Guangfa Tai Guang Divine Venerable interrupted, "None of your strategies can avoid the struggle for the position of Son of Heaven. In your opinion, which is the greater calamity, the one brought by the Dark God or the battle for the position of Son of Heaven?" As soon as he finished, the hall fell silent. No immortal or god dared to speak. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 761. Lifespan of 20 quadrillion years. In the Grand Hall of Guangfa Immortal Palace, it was silent. Those previously impassioned disciples were all silent, each with an unsightly expression, tinged with a bit of embarrassment. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable swept his gaze over everyone in the hall, his eyes indifferent. Sir, the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Clearly, the disaster of the Tianzi contest is much more significant. How many beings can the Dark God harm? How many beings will the Tianzi contest affect? Even if the 3,000 great worlds can be reopened and remodeled, what about the beings that died? They will merely be replaced by new life. If the Tianzi contest is not resolved soon, other evil gods will continue to emerge. Suddenly, a voice echoed throughout the great hall, catching the attention of the immortal gods. Celestial Destruction God raised his eyebrows, showing a surprised expression, for the speaker was none other than Li Xuanmiao. Li Xuanmiao, a person who had ascended, had the least experience among the immortals present, yet he dared to utter such blasphemous words. Wasn't he afraid that some immortal gods among them were subordinates of the Son of Heaven? While being surprised, Celestial Destruction God also felt a sense of admiration. From a young age he considered his bravery unparalleled in the world, but after arriving at the Celestial Court he became cautious, gradually losing his sharpness and becoming like those detestable immortal gods bullying the weak. Li Xuanmiao's comments voiced his thoughts, but he could never say them aloud. Under the gaze of hundreds of immortal gods, Li Xuanmiao was unafraid, staring directly at Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable. From this moment, the subject was no longer Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable testing the disciples but rather Li Xuanmiao testing Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable, at least in Li Xuanmiao's mind. Even if the disaster of the Tianzi contest is greater, how will you change it? In this celestial court, only the Celestial Emperor can alter everything. Seeing the Celestial Emperor is harder than becoming a supreme immortal. Even if you see him, what makes you think you can convince him? Do you think no immortal in the long years has ever suggested the same as you? Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable calmly asked while staring at Li Xuanmiao. Li Xuanmiao frowned and the other immortal gods all let out a sigh of relief. At least Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable hadn't lost his mind. Although the two current contenders for the Son of Heaven might not shake Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable, once the Tianzi contest ends that might not be the case. Historically, once the contest concludes, one side always rises, even if their final fate is tragic. In that stage, it isn't impossible for one to have the power to challenge Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable said, "Instead of complaining about the Tianzi contest, why not think about how to solve the chaos caused by the Dark God? You know, it's much easier to deal with the Dark God than to end the Tianzi contest. You bring up the Tianzi contest because you don't want to address the chaos caused by the Dark God, right?" The immortal gods showed awkward smiles, not daring to refute. Li Xuanmiao calmed down. Although he felt Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable made sense, he also thought Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable was avoiding the issue. While they thought about how to deal with the Dark God, would great powers like Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable consider how to solve the Tianzi contest? He didn't receive an answer, and Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable didn't continue on that topic but instead began discussing the great Dao origins of the Dark God. Using this topic he continued preaching, deeply immersing the disciples in Dao intent, gradually making them forget their troubles. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable looked at Li Xuanmiao. Li Xuanmiao had already closed his eyes, and Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable's gaze was full of appreciation and worry. "Disciple, the waters in this celestial court are much deeper than you think. Your arrogance can help you soar higher or cause you to fall harder. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Venerable raised his eyes and looked outside the hall at the celestial vault, his expression turning worried. He sighed in his heart, Dark God, are you coming back? 150,000 years later. Although the human world was still embroiled in conflict, the sky remained blue. On this day, Guan returned from human world peak, feeling quite upbeat because his lifespan had reached 20 million billion years. He planned to rest for a night and break through the next day. Returning to Daoist field of the beginningless, he greeted the disciples training and sparring along the way, which surprised them. Before he could return to his abode, an Exan appeared ahead urgently saying, Master, the dark divine sect has made a move. A dark heavenly god has emerged and even the immortal gods are powerless against him. If the immortal gods can't defeat him, they will naturally retreat. Aren't you going to intervene? An Exan asked. In her opinion, those immortal gods were already above all beings' existence. If even they couldn't deal with the dark heavenly god, only her master could resolve it. If her master couldn't solve it, they could only consider escaping. Guan replied, Don't be anxious. The dark heavenly god doesn't seek to destroy the world. Moreover, it's not yet time for me to act. He paused and continued, Tell the disciples that opposing the dark divine sect carries the risk of body and Tao disappearing. I may have the opportunity to avenge them, but I can't protect them at critical moments. Hearing this, an Exan was reassured. Her master saying this clearly didn't take the dark divine sect seriously. The reason he wasn't acting now was likely to test all living beings. I will warn them. An Exan replied solemnly, then saluted and left. Guan continued through the woods looking toward other great thousand worlds. Besides the celestial spirit great world, 6 great thousand worlds were enveloped by the dark heavenly gods. 7 dark heavenly gods had already suppressed the immortal gods of each world, then began releasing destiny, seemingly preparing to establish a new immortal god system. The dark god watched quietly from the great Tao. This dark god had a Tao extreme Daoyuo immortal's cultivation level, posing no threat to Guan. Guan was waiting for the opportunity to permanently eliminate him. Moreover, the deep crimson mist approaching the celestial Tao destiny had not stopped. Guan couldn't tell if the dark god was related to the crimson mist. From cause and effect there was no connection yet, but they both entered the celestial Tao range around the same time. Even if there was no direct connection, they were likely related. Dark God, why do you feel so similar to the heavenly court immortals, especially in the structure of destiny? Guan murmured as he walked. Sitting by the tree in meditation, Duanli opened his eyes upon hearing Guan's voice. Seeing it was Guan, he quickly got up and saluted. Grand disciple greets Grand Master. Duanli said respectfully, but Guan ignored him and walked past him. Watching Guan's back, Duanli hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and following, asking, Grandmaster, I have questions about the destiny-defying divine skill. No one in the dojo practices this skill, so I can only ask you. Guan stopped. This made Duanli even more nervous. Looking back at Duanli, Guan said, The destiny-defying divine skill is mainly about passing on the skill to others. Perhaps you could try passing it on once. It might bring you a surprise. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 762. Primordial Chaos, Outer Heaven. In the long years, all of Gu Anna's hobbies would be transformed with his Tao intent, and the destiny-defying divine skill was no exception. After being modified by the Xianxia primordial immortal, this skill had already transcended the mundane. Looking at the entire celestial spirit great world, no cultivation technique could compare to the creation of this skill. The destiny-defying divine skill was originally designed to serve others, but through Gu Anna's modifications, incorporating cause and effect and the path of chi fortune, it could transfer power to the successor, gaining the blessing of nature's spiritual energy and the power of cause and effect, absorbing spiritual energy to achieve greater power in a short time. It was applicable both within the heavens and within the scope of the Great Tao. Overall, the destiny-defying divine skill was not considered a speed-up type of cultivation technique because the transferred power had to be cultivated by oneself, and the power gained after transmission would be calculated separately and could not be passed on to others. Although it was not a speed-up technique, it could constantly raise a cultivator's upper limit, or rather transcend the limit. 4 cultivators with mediocre talent and not outstanding comprehension, the destiny-defying divine skill was a very good path to ascension. Now the spiritual talent of the beings on the 9-spirit continent was very high, but that was only within the celestial spirit great world. On the level of the Tao it was nothing remarkable. Duan Li's talent allowed him to achieve the Tao fruit realm smoothly, but it was almost impossible for him to reach the golden immortal realm. The destiny-defying divine skill was tailored by Guan for him, and the reason for treating him this way was that Guan had waited for him for many years, involving a cause and effect, an old acquaintance. Surprise! Duan Li watched Guan leave, pondering his words in his mouth. He believed the ancestral master would not deceive him, but whom should he pass on the power to? Should I also take on disciples? Duan Li thought silently, but then he felt he couldn't act recklessly, passing on the power randomly just to become stronger. The person who could inherit his mana had to be someone with both moral integrity and quality. This required careful consideration. Coincidentally, he could set an example for all living beings on behalf of Wuxia. Even if the talent was insufficient, good deeds would always bring good fortune. Duan Li's thoughts were suddenly activated, his eyes became bright, and the more he thought, the more excited he became. He felt a sense of finding the meaning of his life's value. The Wuxia disciples harbored no grudges, cultivating for themselves without contests for power and profit within the dojo, allowing the disciples more time to contemplate the meaning of their cultivation. Mere strength improvement no longer satisfied the Wuxia disciples. They had greater ideals. Protecting all living beings was too vast and empty. This world was so immensely vast that it didn't need their protection yet. What they had to think about was what they could do for this world. Duan Li's thoughts were not enough to gratify Guan. He helped Duan Li not because he hoped Duan Li would become great or accomplished. Compared to Duan Li's thoughts, Guan was now fully focused on breakthrough. He was considering whether to first enhance a Daoist technique for the upcoming breakthrough. So far he felt that his cultivation technique and divine skills were sufficient. For instance, the myriad Tao extinction skill remained inexhaustibly useful to him as the Xianxia primordial immortal realm's perfection, bringing him new insights from time to time. The last time he broke through, he even advanced his physique in advance. He felt his physical aspects were not lacking. He was missing only the sediment of years and experience. Even adding Zhou Xian's life experience, his experiences couldn't compare to those of Xianxia primordial immortals, let alone Tao extreme Daoyuo immortals. Those great powers would all undergo reincarnation to attain enlightenment, having experienced unfathomably long years beyond mortal spirits' imagination. Their time of cultivation and attaining the Tao far exceeded Gu's. Guan had been pondering a question all along. Would the celestial tribulation become stronger as his strength grew? From the perspective of the celestial spirit great world, it was true. Within the same realm, the stronger the talent and the higher the strength, the stronger the tribulation the prodigies faced. But one couldn't neglect strength because if the strength wasn't enough, dying under the celestial tribulation would be too tragic. In reality, many cultivators indeed died under the celestial tribulation. Additionally, the stronger the tribulation one faced, the more one gained post-tribulation. This was also why many prodigies strove to challenge stronger tribulations with all their might. After much thought, Guan still decided to enhance a Daoist technique as a gesture of reverence towards the evolving celestial tribulation. After all, the tribulation he faced was not something comparable to reality. This night was even longer than the previous nights. Just at dawn, Guan descended the mountain. As usual, he walked slowly, and the disciples along the way couldn't guess that he was going for a breakthrough. They thought he was heading out to idle in the clouds and wild cranes. After leaving the Wuxia Daoist field, Guan arrived at a deserted island, following his usual habit to open the lifespan breakthrough. The breakthrough of 100 billion years of lifespan was nothing for him now, but it could erase the cause and effect of coming and going, which was significant. Even though he hadn't encountered a being stronger than himself, he still chose to remain cautious. You have activated the lifespan breakthrough function. Based on your current realm, the following breakthrough locations have been chosen for you. 1. Path of the Great Tao. Taiching Deep Realm. 3. Chaos Xian Primordial. 4. Deep Domain. 5. Tao Burial Mountain. 6. Outer Heaven. 7. Boundless Yin Yang Inverted Realm. Final End. 9. Myriad Tao Divine Source. Many new place names appeared again. That meant these places could nurture existences surpassing the Xianxia primordial immortal. Guan couldn't help but marvel at the profundity of the path of the Great Tao. No matter which realm he reached, the path of the Great Tao was still a place he could break through. The newly appeared place names were all full of allure. Chaos Xian Primordial must be a chaotic region outside the heavenly Tao, but the specifics were unclear. Tao Burial Mountain, where Tao is buried. Outer Heaven. This name was too domineering, making one want to see it. Myriad Tao divine source was profound. Its mystery couldn't be discerned for the moment. Guan was also greatly interested in the previously appeared boundless yin-yang inverted realm and final end, which made him a bit perplexed. Where would be the best place to break through? After much thought, he felt he could go to Chaos Xian Primordial. At least this place could be pinpointed outside the heavenly Tao's scope. Moreover, if he made some noise, it might even distract that deep crimson mist, buying more years for the beings of the heavenly Tao. Guan made the decision immediately. Teleporting to Chaos Xian Primordial will cost 10 billion years of lifespan. Do you wish to continue? Continue. At the thought, the long-lost dizziness struck. Even though his realm was already very high, he still felt this discomfort, which made him have even greater reverence for the lifespan ability. Before he could see the root of his ability, he could never call himself invincible. He grew stronger through the evolution of the lifespan. He wouldn't worry too much about its source since it was meaningless. After all, he gained strength through it. What he needed to do was to take it as a goal and motivate himself further. After a while, Guan felt he could open his eyes. The moment he opened them, he immediately activated the lifespan barrier. An invisible lifespan barrier quickly spread out, making his heart instantly calm. Sar the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 763. Tremendous changes in heaven and earth. Gu's eyes reflected the brilliant chaos of the starry sky. Though he often peered into chaos, the sights here in the Taichu chaos still stunned him. He stood atop a cloud of stars. Ahead of him the multicolored sky spread out, with the 3,000 great Tao transforming into rivers that surged forth, each sparkling with countless stars, as if containing fragments of the starry sky, beautiful and mesmerizing, mysterious and mystical. Here the cosmos was vast beyond measure, larger than the starry sky anywhere else. The depths of chaos exceeded his expectations in beauty, even surpassing the heavenly Tao universe. The Tao's spiritual qi here was superior, making it an ideal place for high-realm cultivators to seek enlightenment. The 3,000 great Tao here differed from those in the heavenly Tao universe. While they remained great Tao, they seemed more lively, as if possessing life, yet without their own will or rules. They flowed incessantly, resembling a pattern, though undetermined. Guan gazed into the distance, faintly perceiving the direction of celestial Tao destiny far, far away. He couldn't discern everything within the heavenly Tao from here. He could view it through his incarnation, but that was another perspective. What he did see was a deep red fog equally distant. Retracting his gaze, he sat down cross-legged on the spot. Sarch * the Nell Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He prepared to elevate his cultivation technique before beginning his breakthrough. Ultimately, he spent 2 trillion years of lifespan to upgrade the Myriad Tao extinction skill to the Infinite Eternal Tao technique. Fortunately, he hadn't upgraded his technique each time before. 2 trillion years of lifespan during previous breakthroughs wouldn't have been a small amount. Now came the main event. Breaking through to the Great Realm. For the past dozens of years, he had anticipated the name and fortune of the next realm. He deliberately suppressed this expectation, knowing the joy upon attaining it would be greater the more he anticipated. Inside a dim cave room, the demon emperor sat cultivating. His appearance hadn't changed much, but his demeanor grew increasingly otherworldly. In front of him, true monarch Qitian lay on the ground, eyes hollow, lifeless, staring numbly at the cave ceiling. Suddenly, a swirl of black air spread from the dark corner of the cave room. The demon emperor opened his eyes, frowning, while true monarch Qitian remained unaware of the anomaly. Imprisoned here, spiritual energy barely sustained their existence, unable to aid their cultivation. Thus, true monarch Qitian had long despaired, unable to understand the purpose of the demon emperor's meditative enlightenment. With insufficient spiritual energy, Cultivation seemed purely a wasted effort. Imprisoned in darkness, do you still yearn for light? A cold voice echoed. Initially, true monarch Qitian paid it no mind, but after a few breaths he seemed to realize something. His eyes widened abruptly and in one swift motion he jumped up. Who? True monarch Qitian croaked, his voice hoarse from years of silence. His gaze locked onto the dark corner, faintly perceiving a figure condensing and approaching him. Soon, a mysterious robed figure wearing a bronze mask stepped forward. The mask resembled a Qilan's head, ferocious and frightening, exuding immense pressure. True monarch Qitian furrowed his brows, poised for confrontation. The demon emperor didn't rise, simply staring at the mysterious robed figure. I am the dark heavenly god. I can help you escape this place. The robed figure continued, his mask concealing his features, making it impossible for the two to see his expression. Hearing these words, true monarch Qitian was ecstatic and quickly asked, You have no ties with the 9 major sects? After you were suppressed, the human world welcomed the dark god who brings a new order. If you align yourselves with the dark fortune, I can save you, even lead you to realms beyond your imagination. The robed figure's words excited true monarch Qitian even more. He cared not for the dark god or light god. As long as the figure wasn't from the 9 major sects and could truly help him escape, he was willing. I join. I am willing. True monarch Qitian answered immediately, trembling in excitement. Journey to the west, great sage equaling heaven, he had forgotten them all. In the years without hope, he regretted rescuing the demon emperor. The demon emperor hadn't done him any favors. He merely admired the legends he heard in his youth. The robed figure then asked, And what about you? True monarch Qitian urged. Demon emperor, quickly agree. If we preserve our lives, we'll find opportunities for vengeance. Being trapped here, you'll never have a chance for revenge. Having lost freedom, they recognized its value. Even if not absolute freedom, the ability to roam the heavens and earth was cherished. The demon emperor didn't react with joy or excitement like true monarch Qitian. He gazed at the robed figure expressionlessly and said, If what you say is true, the 9 major sects will eventually be annihilated by the dark god. We can escape then as well. If you possess the power to destroy the 9 major sects, why sneak in? Realizing the truth, true monarch Qitian felt uneasy. The robed figure, under their scrutiny, didn't respond. The demon emperor continued, You immortals and gods undoubtedly want not just dominance through force but the hearts of all living beings. Even conquering the hearts within the 9 major sects is your aim. If we and the 9 major sects become followers of the dark god, how would you manage our grievances? True monarch Qitian's elation quickly dissipated, his expression changing dramatically. A new system will naturally arise. If you have good comprehension, you will escape this great thousand world. The robed figure's answer did not satisfy the demon emperor. You, true monarch Qitian began. Suddenly, the robed figure dissolved into black mist, which swiftly retreated to the corner as if it had never appeared, leaving an illusion of the past moments. True monarch Qitian, eyes wide, called out for the dark heavenly god, but received no response. Damn, liar. Accursed liar. True monarch Qitian raged, his roars resounding. The demon emperor frowned, believing the figure didn't flee due to exposed lies but because something had happened outside. Dark god, the demon emperor murmured, feeling a pang of sorrow. He had been suppressed for too long. Despite convincing himself, the shifting heavens terrified him. He feared upon escaping one day, the world's structure would have radically altered, returning him to the plight before his transformation. Simultaneously, before the world gate, celestial spirit god, Tai immortal monarch Emperor Tianhong, and 72 immortals of Jin Dong gathered, watching the frenzied surge of dark fortune enshrouding the celestial spirit great world, all feeling vigilant. They saw the dark heavenly god fly towards the upper cosmos, stopping only in the void devoid of spiritual energy. The dark heavenly god gazed upwards, his intentions unclear. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 764. Breakthrough to the mixed element. Profound venerable immortal. What's wrong with him? The celestial spirit god gazed at the mysterious black-robed figure of the dark heavenly god, frowning as he asked. The other's posture seemed to be waiting for someone, which made him uneasy. One dark heavenly god already gave them a headache. If a few more appeared, how could they possibly withstand it? The other immortal gods did not answer him, equally perplexed by the situation. The Tai immortal monarch with the highest cultivation level looked in the direction the dark heavenly god was watching, but he saw nothing. Yet his intuition told him that something was happening beyond the heavenly Tao. At this moment, not only them but those who were monitoring the presence of dark heavenly gods from various realms also realized that something unexpected might be occurring beyond the heavenly Tao. And in the celestial court, an unknown number of immortal gods were fixated on the chaos. The chaos was stirring an immensely terrifying great Tao storm, even affecting the edge of the celestial Tao destiny's domain, making the surrounding universes shimmer with multicolored light. Endless Tao Mountain. Atop each Tao mountain stood a great power, gazing at the chaos, the anomaly in the chaos capturing the attention of the entire heavenly Tao. And those powerful beings hidden within the chaos were also startled. The deep red fog approaching the heavenly Tao came to a halt. Within that vast red fog, massive figures seemed to rise and fall, looming indistinctly. No one knew what exactly was happening in the depths of the chaos, nor could anyone find the source. Underworld. On a barren land stood a colossal ancient tree unmoved. This tree was the inheritance tree of the Nine Divine Mansion, known as the Profound Abyss Ancient Tree. Beneath the tree, a dozen people were meditating, their gazes all directed in the same direction. There is an anomaly in the chaos, Hongyazi said grimly. Having roamed the Great Tao for so many years, he knew how terrifying the threat of the chaos could be. Gu's avatar also frowned, seemingly as confused and uneasy about the unknown danger as the others. Hongyazi turned to Guan lamenting, "It appears that not ascending to immortality has its benefits. At least we don't have to face the threats from the chaos." Guan shook his head, chuckled and said, "Difficulties cannot be measured by cultivation level. Different realms face different challenges." "That's true. Just the Son of Heaven alone could crush our misty immortal court." Hongyazi sighed, and the surrounding cultivators began to joke about the misty immortal court. Hongyazi did not get angry because he was the one who brought up the court's predicament, and the people around him were already good friends. Talking about the misty immortal court, their apprehensions dissipated. After all, the calamities of the chaos posed no threat to them. Although the celestial court was domineering, it never compromised in the face of the chaos threats, nor would it retreat, which was one of the reasons many beings aspired to the celestial court. This anomaly from the chaos persisted for 2 hours before everything returned to normal. When the celestial spirit god Tai Immortal Monarch and others saw the dark heavenly god fall back into the celestial spirit great world, they did not disperse. Instead, they continued to wait in case more dark heavenly gods descended. In an unknown corner, Guan landed on a small island. Sunlight poured down, illuminating him, his body seemingly draped in resplendent radiance. He looked down at his body, expressionless, then pulled up his attribute panel to check. Name, Guan, lifespan, 13-060-997/109, 822-321-049-227, physique, primordial infinite creation Tao body, cultivation level, primordial profound venerable immortal realm midstage, primordial profound venerable immortal. This realm surpassed the Xianxia primordial immortal. From achieving perfection in the Xianxia primordial immortal realm to reaching the midstage of the primordial profound venerable immortal realm, he expended 1.9 trillion years of lifespan, now left with only 109 trillion years. See novel. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The results were remarkable. Guan now felt that the mana within his body was about to explode. If he wished, he could turn the 3,000 great worlds to dust in an instant. He could even disrupt the destiny of the heavenly Tao. This realm was incredibly powerful. Profound wisdom. What they spoke of as profound seemed to represent a power surpassing the primordial. Guan's primordial Tao fruit had already metamorphosed beyond being measurable by mana. The primordial profound venerable immortal was terrifying. Even just the upheaval caused by breaking through was enough to throw the chaos into disorder, even attracting the attention of the heavenly Tao. During his breakthrough, Guan sensed many Xianxia primordial immortals spying on him, with several auras coming from the celestial court. After successfully breaking through, Guan could encompass the entire heavenly Tao within his gaze. To all living beings, the boundless heavenly Tao appeared so trivial and insignificant to him now. The extreme power gave birth to an uncontrollable sense of supremacy within him. The so-called venerable immortal, sovereign over all things, standing above all immortals. Guan sat down to meditate, facing the sea as the sea breeze blew his black hair. His gaze fell upon the celestial vault, traversing countless universes to lock onto that deep red fog. The deep red fog approaching the heavenly Tao was no longer mysterious to him. He suddenly felt an urge to unleash his might and fully assert his newfound pride. He decided to meditate for a few days and then venture into the deep red fog. After reaching the primordial profound venerable realm, the celestial court could no longer pressure Guan. Even the ethereal celestial emperor might be stronger than him, or some celestial Tao venerables might have reached such a realm, but he was not afraid. No realm had ever given Guan such enlightenment, seeing through all things, possessing the great divine power to destroy everything, making it impossible for him to convince himself that he was still weak. Thorough and genuine strength could pivot any Tao heart. Guan was striving hard to restrain this change in mentality. He withdrew his gaze, looking toward the end of the sea horizon, lost in thought. The sea wind fluttered his black robe and swept his hair strands. He didn't blink, his gaze was as serene as the vast ocean ahead. The sun gradually set, the twilight glow swept across Guan's face, and his expression remained unchanged from beginning to end. Sunset and moonrise. Days passed by. Gradually, silver lines appeared on Guan's left shoulder, intertwining and ultimately forming a white bird resembling an eagle. This bird had long feathers at the end of its tail. The feathers on the top of its head extended backward, displaying a faint multicolored hue. This white bird's pupils were gold and red. Although its size was not considerable, its figure appeared majestic, like a divine bird reborn into the world. This bird was the profound venerable spirit that Guan had condensed. It was a great divine power created by this realm, equivalent to an avatar. However, this avatar contained the same cultivation level as the primordial profound venerable immortal body, without independent consciousness, allowing its master to multitask with infinite wonders. The body could even revive endlessly through the profound venerable spirit. The profound venerable spirit could create worlds, act as the rules of heaven and earth, refine treasures, cultivate, all of which would benefit the main body. Even if Guan did not cultivate, as long as it cultivated, his cultivation level would continue to grow. And the profound venerable spirit was immortal. If destroyed, the main body needed only a thought to resurrect it. Both the body and the spirit could infinitely revive each other, supremely domineering. This truly paved the path to immortality. This made Guan think of the Xianxia of the heavenly Tao. He suspected that the heavenly Tao was indeed created by an immensely strong entity, and the so-called Xianxia was the manifestation of that entity's profound venerable spirit. From now on, you shall be called Wuxia Divine Sparrow. Guan murmured, speaking to himself. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 765. Heaven Suppressing Endless Tower, Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. In the chaos void, a swirling expanse of deep red mist billowed, reducing the meteors along its path to mere specks of dust. In the depths of the red mist, lightning weaved together. This place seemed to be the end of the abyss, with demonic shadows emerging incessantly and eerie illusions appearing, creating a bewildering and shocking scene. A magnificent colossal black tower stood in the heart of the mist. On closer inspection, it was a series of four-cornered palaces stacked atop each other. Each roof harbored terrifying entities, some resembling demons, some human-like, and others indescribable, shrouded in obscurity. The interior of the black tower was a bright hull, the ground glittering like a galaxy. Massive stone pillars carved with mysterious patterns stood in a disorderly arrangement, resembling pillars supporting the sky, immovable. A white bird suddenly flew into the hull, its long tail feathers longer than its body, with its head faintly radiating a seven-colored halo, appearing majestic and brimming with celestial energy. Boom! A terrifying figure descended from the sky, towering 10,000 feet, entirely pitch black, its human-like form adorned with long flowing hair that transformed into writhing serpents flicking their tongues. His eyes were blood red, exuding a fierce light as an overwhelming aura erupted. Roar, a deafening roar resounded, shaking the heavens and the earth. This terrifying demon, towering 10,000 feet, appeared like a divine mountain before the white bird within the hall. The white bird stopped and suddenly transformed into a silver-glowing figure. It was Guan. Guan was utilizing the great Dao formless body to isolate causal investigations and control his own aura. He looked at the towering 10,000-foot demon ahead, needing no lifespan detection to see through its origins. Chaos Evil Demon, Great Anger Evil, Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortal Realm Cultivation. This black tower was called the Heaven-Suppressing Endless Tower, one of the supreme treasures of the Dark Heavenly Court. The Dark Heavenly Court belonged to the Dark God's forces. With Gu An's current cultivation level, he could see through the connection between the Dark Heavenly Court and the Heavenly Court. The Dark Heavenly Court originated from the Heavenly Dao but was severed from its destiny and reforged in the chaos, showing him the ancient contention for the Celestial Emperor of the Heavenly Court. The past of the Heavenly Dao was far more fascinating than Guan had previously imagined. However, the current history was not important. What Guan wanted was to exhibit the power of the mixed element profound venerable immortal. The beings within the heaven-suppressing endless tower were connected to the tower's destiny, much like immortal gods, able to avoid true death through this connection. Unless the heaven-suppressing endless tower was destroyed, he could not completely annihilate these beings. He wanted this effect, not causing real sin but allowing an outlet. Not going to the heavenly court was because he had no enmity with it, and he had disciples serving as immortal officials in the heavenly court, whereas the dark heavenly court would eventually clash with the heavenly Dao, potentially affecting the celestial spirit great world. Who are you? A thunderous shout burst out, resonating like rolling thunder, endlessly echoing. Guan raised his right hand and the Cyan Hong sword appeared out of thin air. As the blade tilted, silver sword chi swirled around it, burning like flames. He stepped towards the towering Great Anger Evil. Seeing Guan not responding and directly attacking, Great Anger Evil was furious. He raised his right palm high and slammed it down. Instantly, grand Dharma aspects appeared around, countless flaming meteors emerged, sweeping towards Guan like a cosmic torrent. Sword light shone. The Dharma aspects shattered instantly and Great Anger Evil disintegrated into ashes. Guan stepped forward, each step flashing a distance swift like Jing Hong. Numerous chaos evil demons descended to block the path ahead. Looking around, they were countless, covering the hall's end, and the patterns on the stone pillars came to life, manifesting terrifying figures. Guan did not stop, wielding the Cyan Hong sword, sweeping forward. Arrogant! How dare you break into the dark heavenly court, courting death? Stop him! Is he an immortal god from the heavenly Dao heavenly court? Voices filled with shock and anger echoed, but unfortunately they received no response. They could only watch their companions turn to ash one after another, as the invincible silver sword light approached. Guan used the simplest sword techniques, but with absolute speed and power that none could resist. Even entities of the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal Realm in darkness couldn't withstand a single strike from him. These dark beings and chaos evil demons relied on the dark heavenly court's destiny, not truly dying. Though it didn't grant Guan lifespan, he reveled in the slaughter, venting the wrath brought by his immense power. Xianxia the novel, Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The heaven-suppressing endless tower, true to its name, possessed seemingly endless levels. Each level was connected by special space-time Daoists, allowing continuous progression forward to ascend higher without flying upward. As Guan rampaged through the heaven-suppressing endless tower, he sensed an immense number of life forces pouring into the tower. The manifested beings were countless. Even after a short battle, millions of enemies had appeared ahead. Though Guan displayed formidable power, the beings of the dark heavenly court were fearless. Their immortality gave them the courage to face even the strongest foes. Sword light pressed forward relentlessly, reducing everything to ash. Guan advanced nimbly, his aura surpassing entities thousands of times larger than him. Be it Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortals, Miaozhen Daoyuo Immortals, Heaven Opening Daoyuo Immortals, Innate Golden Immortals, Heaven Balancing Golden Immortals or Taiching Golden Immortals, all were reduced to nothingness upon contact with him. A terrifying roar echoed as the resurrected great anger evil leapt over countless dark beings and chaos evil demons towards Guan, utterly enraged, feeling humiliated by Guan. Innumerable divine skills, dharma aspects and great Daoist techniques burst forth but were shattered like illusions before Guan's eyes with a single slash. The resurrected dark beings and chaos evil demons rejoined the fight repeatedly, fearless of death. The more they killed, the crazier they grew, their rage and murderous intent surging. Meanwhile, at the top of the heaven-suppressing endless tower was a dim hole, where the only light came from the silver-blue radiance emitted by two stone pillars in front of the steps. Above the steps sat a huge stone chair, embedded with dozens of magical treasures, banners waving, swords refracting light, and long sashes writhing like dragons and serpents. On the stone chair sat a skeleton wearing a dragon head golden crown, adorned with bead curtains with a golden long spear standing before it. The spearhead emerged from a Qilin head, and the spear's body was covered in golden scales, though these scales were tainted by a mysterious black substance as if being devoured. He was the supreme of the dark heavenly court, Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. Suddenly, a pair of cold eyes opened beneath the eye sockets of Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's skull, like an ancient fiend awakening from countless years of slumber, bringing boundless killing intent, enough to sweep across the all heavens and myriad realms. How many years has it been? Finally, someone dares to intrude into my heaven-suppressing endless tower, wishing to shake the dark heavenly court with their own strength. Junior, you are too arrogant. An ancient and majestic voice echoed through the dim hall. As the words fell, the darkness seemed to stir with a dance of demons, making the hall suddenly lively. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 766. Reminiscence of Demon Slaying. The voice of the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable passed through layers of palaces, falling into Guan's ears, and also reached the dark creatures and chaotic demons pushing forward in waves. Their morale surged and their roars became even more clamorous. Guan remained unmoved, continuing to kill his way forward. The person shining with silver light all over appeared filled with killing intent, but in fact he had already closed his eyes. With every swing of his sword, old memories emerged. In his youth, beside the medicine garden, Zhang Chuanqiu taught him and Meng Lang swordsmanship. Though it was a very ordinary swordsmanship, he and Meng Lang practiced it earnestly. The scene shifted and he found himself in the forest, receiving sword guidance from Li Ya. The wind blew and the scene in the forest suddenly changed to a memory of him instructing Su Han. Flashes of the past continually appeared in Gu's mind, his sword growing faster as if he wanted to sever the past. Crush. The ground of the palace ahead suddenly shattered. A giant dragon head as large as a mountain burst out, swallowing towards Guan. Along the way, many dark creatures and chaotic demons were swallowed by it. A flash of sword light. The dragon head shattered and Guan transformed into a silver sword light, sweeping through the enemy ranks, killing his way into the 1,000-strong army. Wherever he went, no immortal or demon could stand in his way. The road ahead had no end. No matter how far he killed, he couldn't see the palace walls. As time passed, enemies also appeared behind and on both sides of Guan. He seemed to be in a vast black ocean, raising a magnificent straight line of seawater, vowing to split this ocean in half. Battle, extinction, resurrection, battle, re-extinction, re-resurrection, battle again. The dark creatures and chaotic demons continually repeated this cycle. At the edge of the black ocean, a figure appeared out of nowhere. It was the true form of Yuan Luo. After the destruction of the Qiankuan sect, Yuan Luo recovered his memory and learned that the struggle for the Son of Heaven was imminent. He thus escaped the range of the heavenly Tao. Recently he returned to the dark heavenly court, his true form a Chaos Grudge Luo, which allowed him to easily join the dark heavenly court. He planned to make a comeback during the descent of the dark heavenly court upon the heavenly Tao, sweeping across the celestial spirit great world. The Chaos Grudge Luo had once brought disaster to the 3,000 great worlds, but his true form within the dark heavenly court counted as nothing. In this heaven-suppressing endless tower he appeared insignificant. How is this possible? Yuan Luo's eyes widened in horror as he looked towards the distant silver sword light. He had lived for countless years, yet this was the first time he had witnessed such a scene. This was the heaven-suppressing endless tower of the dark heavenly court. In all his years he had neither seen nor heard of anyone daring to breach it alone. He couldn't see the true form of the other person clearly. The more he couldn't see, the more uneasy he felt. The opponent gave him a sense of resolute determination. He gritted his teeth and immediately charged forward. Crossing the vast black ocean, a silver sword light illuminated his face, causing him to widen his eyes, reflecting the image of a sword in them. Boom! With a single sword strike, thousands of demons were obliterated without the slightest ability to resist. Guan didn't look back, nor did he deviate in direction, continuing straight ahead. Though it seemed like he was on the same level, he was actually rapidly ascending the heaven-suppressing endless tower. From the outside, the bottom of the heaven-suppressing endless tower shone with sword light. This sword light flashed and quickly ascended to a higher level. At a glance, the sword light seemed to spiral around the heaven-suppressing endless tower, rapidly charging upward. The dark clouds surrounding the heaven-suppressing endless tower surged violently. Dao's spiritual chi flowed, lightning intertwined, reflecting the colorful Dao light of the Dao world continuously changing, highlighting the tense atmosphere inside the tower. At the top palace of the heaven-suppressing endless tower, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable slowly stood up. Though he was a skeleton, he exuded an overpowering sovereign aura. One figure after another appeared out of nowhere before the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable, all with an aura surpassing even the Dao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. A total of 9, all Xianxia primordial immortals. Lord, the opponent is a primordial profound venerable immortal. Do you know which celestial Dao venerable he is? Among the celestial Dao venerables who could be primordial profound venerable immortals, there are only a few, no need to guess. Anyway, they are already our enemies. Could the opponent be coming because of the recent chaos anomalies? Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Possible the Celestial Court might think that we caused the anomalies. In my opinion, the Celestial Court may want to take advantage while we are unprepared. The 9 Xianxia primordial immortals discussed, their tones full of hostility towards the Celestial Court. The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable calmly said, if it were those few celestial Dao venerables, they wouldn't hide their true form. Moreover, there is no celestial Dao destiny on this person, he only comes from the heavenly Dao. Upon hearing this, the 9 Xianxia primordial immortals quieted down, each lost in thought. Just then the dim palace began to tremble slightly, signaling that Guan was getting closer. Let's go, we should also meet him and try to force out his divine skills. A Xianxia primordial immortal spoke, his figure burly with 3 heads and 6 arms, a pair of massive wings on his back that covered the sky when spread. As his voice fell, all 9 Xianxia primordial immortals disappeared on the spot along with him. The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable stood before his throne, watching quietly, the eyes within his eye sockets growing colder, reflecting Guan's invincible figure. The support speed of the Xianxia primordial immortals was extremely fast. In almost an instant, the 9 Xianxia primordial immortals appeared above Guan's head. They formed a formation with such speed that other dark creatures and chaotic demons had no time to react. A black light pillar entwined with lightning descended from the sky, crushing Guan. As soon as the black light pillar engulfed Guan, he slashed out with a sword, unaffected in speed. Instead, the 9 Xianxia primordial immortals were hurled away, showing expressions of disbelief. They knew they were no match for a primordial profound venerable immortal, but for the opponent to cut through their combined formation with just a casual sword strike without even using divine skills, was too absurd. Audacious. A Xianxia primordial immortal descended from the sky, crushing hundreds of chaotic demons, wielding a black blade. With a slash carrying the terrifying power of cause and effect, the space in front of Guan suddenly shifted, and illusions of myriad worlds rushed towards him. In an instant, countless demons surged from these worlds, all formed from the power of the great Dao, each emitting a presence surpassing that of a golden immortal. Guan remained unaffected, his figure lunging forward, Cyan Hong's sword slashing ahead, cleaving billions of demons, and worlds shattered before him like dazzling fireworks. The Xianxia primordial immortal widened his eyes, yet before he could speak, Guan flashed before him, slicing him in half, and immediately, the 2 halves disintegrated into flying ash. In front of Guan he was no different from the other dark creatures and chaotic demons. The other 8 Xianxia primordial immortals attacked one after another, but all fell to Guan's single strike. Guan's thoughts were still immersed in memories. This battle was both an outlet for his powerful impulses and a way for him to cultivate his heart. The swelling of his Dao heart made him feel it was not a good sign. He needed to wake up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 767. The calmed Gu and Yuan Luo could no longer remember how many times he had died. Each time he resurrected he would throw himself into the battle once again only to die again. Within the heaven-suppressing endless tower, every being was fighting desperately. This formed a powerful will and momentum that swept him along, unable to escape. He could only feel that his deaths were coming faster and faster because the enemies were getting closer to their resurrection point. After so many kills, Yuan Luo had become numb. It wasn't just him. Many dark creatures and chaos evil demons had also become dazed. The shouts and roars within the tower grew weaker and weaker. Guan was still fighting his way toward the top of the heaven-suppressing endless tower. Even if he could resurrect continually, the endless cycle of death would still wear down morale. Even those Xianxia primordial immortals and Dao extreme Daoist immortals had fallen silent. They no longer had the strength to jeer or curse. They knew they couldn't stop Guan. What they had to do was to show their stance and keep fighting until the Lord gave the order. Looking from the outside, Guan had already fought his way to the middle part of the heaven-suppressing endless tower, still advancing upward rapidly. His pace remained constant regardless of the number of enemies or their morale. It did not affect him. Time flew by quickly. Guan was getting closer and closer to the top. The vast black ocean he traversed still seemed boundless, but this black ocean had become oppressive. Many dark creatures and chaos evil demons no longer used their divine skills. Instead they launched themselves at him, waiting to be slaughtered. After a long time. Finally, at the far end of the great hall appeared a black domain like a black wall. When Guan was within 10,000 miles of the black wall, some dark creatures and chaos evil demons began to slow their steps. When Guan arrived in front of the black wall, no creatures dared to come near him. He did not pause. With a single strike he shattered the black wall. Siege Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. All the dark creatures and chaos evil demons stopped, staring blankly at Guan's back. As the black wall shattered, a dim great hall appeared in front. Countless dark creatures and chaos evil demons knelt together, creating an incredibly magnificent scene, like surging tides. They were all worshipping the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. At the end of the dim great hall, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable stood on the steps, coldly staring at Guan. After stepping into the dim great hall, Guan stopped. In the silver sword light he opened a pair of golden red eyes. It was the Absolute Void Eye. Seeing the Absolute Void Eye, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's gaze changed subtly. What kind of eyes are these? It was the first time he had seen these eyes, which inexplicably reminded him of the Immortal Emperor's eye. But the Immortal Emperor's eye did not give him such a strong sense of oppression. Although they were both primordial profound venerable immortals, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable felt that he might not be the opponent of Guan with the Absolute Void Eye opened. Junior, you are not an immortal of the Celestial Court. Your killing intent is fading. Why have you come? The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable asked calmly. His composure also reassured his billions of subordinates. Countless dark creatures and chaos evil demons stood outside the hall, watching the confrontation between him and Guan. At this moment no one dared to shout. They all held their breath, waiting for the battle that could erupt at any moment. Guan raised the Xianhong sword, pointing it at the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. The silver sword light did not fully cover his figure. It was clear that his robe was fluttering, fully displaying the demeanor of a sword immortal. No, he couldn't be described as an immortal. All the creatures of the dark heavenly court side looked at Guan with eyes full of fear and dread. Even now they did not dare to be certain that the Lord could surely defeat this person. Seeing Guan's lifted sword, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's eyes narrowed. His white bones began to ignite with black flames, which quickly covered his skeleton, forming a black battle armor with surface scales reflecting a metallic cold light. Strands of black qi symbolizing the great Tao circled around the armor. Guan took a step toward the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. With each step his momentum burst forth, rising higher and higher, causing all the creatures outside the hall to change their expressions. Regarding the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's question, Guan heard it but was too lazy to answer. Having fought to this point, naturally he intended to strike down the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. Of course he wouldn't destroy the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower. He was just here to vent. If he could delay the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower's descent upon the Heavenly Tao, he considered it a service to the beings of the Heavenly Tao. The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's eyes narrowed, and the billowing black qi expanded abruptly, altering the hall's space. Instantly the two were transported to a dark void. Here apart from them nothing else existed. The black qi on the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable rapidly condensed into a long halberd. This was not his magical treasure but his profound venerable spirit. Grasping the profound venerable spirit, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's momentum reached its peak. He was a true primordial profound venerable immortal. An earth-shattering battle was about to erupt. The sunset cast a golden hue over the Daoist field of the beginningless. In the courtyard an Exan stood behind Xianxia facing away from her. She looked up at the celestial vault with furrowed brows, deep in thought, her eyes filled with worry. "You're not worried about your master, are you?" Sitting in meditation in front of the artifact refining cauldron, Xianxia asked. Her eyes remained closed and there was a teasing tone in her voice. An Exan replied, "It's not about fearing for his safety. It's just he's been gone for several days. I worry the Dark God might seize the chance to descend upon the human world. With his power surpassing the immortal gods, slaughtering the entire human world might take just a blink of an eye." Xianxia shook her head and laughed softly. If the Dark God wanted to annihilate all living beings, why would he spread the scriptures of the Dark Divine Sect? Hearing this, an Exan felt it made sense. But over the years she had learned too much about the deeds of the Dark Divine Sect, causing her unease. She always felt that the Dark God was different from the previous enemies of the world, and he could bring unimaginable calamity. Moreover, with her master suddenly disappearing for several days, she couldn't help but worry. Indeed, the Dark Divine Sect won't massacre all living beings. You can rest assured. A light laugh sounded, startling an Exan. She turned to see Guan, dressed in white, walking into the courtyard. An Exan was overjoyed and then sighed in relief. She stepped forward, greeting Guan, and curiously asked, "Master, where have you been these past few days?" Guan smiled. "It's a long story. I went to spar with the ancestor of the Dark God's ancestor, warned him that if they dared to cause trouble, I would annihilate their Daoist lineage." He spoke casually, very unserious, making an Exan think he was joking, so she couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. "Master, even if you wouldn't intervene, can you tell me what is the Dark God's realm?" An Exan asked curiously. The Dark Heavenly God was already more powerful than the immortal gods. How strong must the Dark God who surpassed the Dark Heavenly God be? Guan replied, "Many realms higher than the Celestial Spirit God. Not to mention their Celestial Spirit Great World, even in the 3,000 Great Worlds, there aren't many who can match him." As he spoke, he reminisced about the battle with the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. After sparring with other primordial profound venerable immortals, his inflated Tao heart finally stabilized. He was very strong but not enough. After all, if he wanted to completely kill the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable, it would still take a lot of effort. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 768. In the battle with Emperor Bone Profound Venerable, it seemed like Guan had won, but the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable had countless ways to escape. If it were a life-and-death struggle and the enemy escaped, how could it be considered a victory? Moreover, the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower was only a part of the Dark Heavenly Court, the elite force dispatched by the Dark Heavenly Court to the Heavenly Tao. Destroying the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower did not mean destroying the Dark Heavenly Court. It could only result in greater enmity. Recalling the previous battle, Guan grew increasingly vigilant. He realized he had been too careless. Relying on the great Tao formless body and his own strength, he had rashly infiltrated the enemy's stronghold. This time it was satisfying, but he shouldn't do it again in the future. Guan warned himself thus. and Xian asked a few more questions about the dark god. Only after she was completely reassured did she leave. Guan did not return to the house but sat on a bench in the courtyard. He raised his right hand and the Wuxia divine sparrow appeared at his fingertips. Xinjin turned his head to look at him, just in time to see him admiring the Wuxia divine sparrow. What kind of bird is this? So handsome. Xinjin couldn't help but ask. Guan threw the Wuxia divine sparrow towards her and introduced, "From now on, call it the Wuxia divine sparrow. It's a kind of strange bird I found outside." He concealed the origins of the Wuxia divine sparrow. It wasn't due to any specific intention, he simply found it amusing. Xinjin caught the Wuxia divine sparrow, which tilted its head and started to nuzzle her face, making her love it even more. Sarthana Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After playing with it for a while she couldn't help but start touching it. She held the Wuxia divine sparrow and began to examine it, even prying open its legs. Guan, is it a male or a female? Xinjin's question made the corner of Guan's mouth twitch. He quickly said, "This is a spirit bird, born of the creation of heaven and earth without distinction of male or female. Don't be too disrespectful to it." Guan felt very uncomfortable seeing her reach under the Wuxia divine sparrow. "Spirit bird." Xinjin responded, continuing to fiddle with the Wuxia divine sparrow. As night gradually fell, the Daoist field of the beginningless remained calm, and the 9-spirit continent looked the same as always, with spots of starlight appearing under the night sky. Those were the lights of human settlements within the cities, and the majestic world gate stood unmoving as if aiming to pierce the outer heaven. Compared to it, all things seemed insignificant. The 9-spirit continent, and indeed the entire world, seemed very peaceful that night. No one knew that the world's mightiest being had just ascended to a higher level, gaining the power to overturn everything. In the chaos void, deep red fog was surging, and the heaven-suppressing endless tower inside showed no signs of change. In the dim palace at the top, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable sat on the throne as a skeleton, eyes icy cold. 9 Xianxia primordial immortals stood in a row, their faces extremely grim. Although Guan had left, the scenes of the previous battle constantly replayed in their minds, weighing heavily on their hearts. Their greatest pride was shattered by the Lord's humiliating defeat, leaving them disoriented. Was this journey to the heavenly Tao truly destined for success? Would it be a one-way trip with no return? The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable was equally disturbed, his mind occupied by Guan's piercing eyes. Shrouded by those eyes, all of the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable's divine skills seemed insignificant. It had been a complete and utter defeat with no chance of victory. Was it an illusion, or did the opponent truly have the power to annihilate him? Moreover, could his opponent possibly extinguish the dark fortune of the dark heavenly court? This thought made him increasingly uneasy. The palace was utterly silent, oppressively so. For a long time, one of the Xianxia primordial immortals could not help but ask, "Lord, do we still proceed to the heavenly Tao?" The Emperor Bone Profound Venerable replied, "The other party should have no connection with the celestial court. Our hatred with the celestial court is irreconcilable, and he couldn't have shown mercy. Perhaps he came because of other matters, possibly due to some dark heavenly god offending him. In any case, the journey to the heavenly Tao cannot be halted, but we can slow our pace. I will discuss this with His Majesty." Hearing this, the Xianxia primordial immortals all breathed a sigh of relief. Though they were immortal, they felt genuinely threatened by Guan. They didn't want to gamble with their lives. A more cautious approach was naturally preferable. "You all should go and rest for now," the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable ordered, and the 9 Xianxia primordial immortals immediately saluted and then vanished from sight. After they left, the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable coughed a few times, raised a skeletal hand to clutch his chest and muttered to himself, "What kind of palm technique is that, so domineering?" No one could answer him, and he didn't want to know the answer. After a while he too disappeared from the throne. The battle between Guan and Emperor Bone Profound Venerable did not affect the destiny of the Great Thousand World, as the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower had not yet dissipated. The Dark God immediately stood within the void of the Great Tao, overlooking the celestial spirit Great World, while other dark heavenly gods in the Great Thousand World continued to preach and enlighten immortals. Not to mention other Great Thousand Worlds, The number of dark beings in the celestial spirit great world continued to increase, all tainted by the dark fortune. The dark divine sect's influence was growing steadily. 3,000 years later, the dark divine sect had become a formidable major sect in the human world, with a dark being count exceeding 10 million, evolving into a colossal force. The various sects of the world began to put aside their grudges to unite against the dark divine sect. Wuxia disciples also emerged to save those suffering beings. Once infused with the dark heavenly court's fortune, beings would become violent, and their inner desires would be infinitely magnified. Hence, dark beings committed countless atrocities, and the dark heavenly gods did not see this as a bad thing. Prolonged savagery would plunge the human world into despair, and in the depths of despair, it was easier to fall into darkness. On this day just past noon, Guan, clad in blue, walked along a mountain ridge with the Wuxia divine sparrow perched on his right shoulder. The blood prison great saint followed behind, glaring indignantly at the Wuxia divine sparrow. Although this foul bird couldn't speak, it made him feel his status was threatened. If you have something to say, say it. Why do you keep following me? Guan asked without looking back. After years of cultivating his mind, he had returned to his pre-breakthrough state, becoming exceptionally calm. The blood prison great saint quickly replied, "Nothing, I just wanted to see if you need me for anything. You can command me anytime." "Then I order you not to follow me now," Guan said casually, causing the blood prison great saint to halt immediately, looking at Guan with an embarrassed expression. He truly felt out of favor. Blood prison great saint thought despairingly. The corners of Guan's mouth twitched slightly. He wanted to ask when had he ever favored him. Go find Zhou and assist him. I'll guide you in your cultivation when you return. Guan's voice reached the blood prison great saint's ears, filling him with joy. He quickly thanked Guan and then vanished from the mountainside. Guan paid no more attention to him and continued to stroll forward. He did not go to observe the state of the 3,000 great worlds. He was enjoying the scenery along the way, contemplating how to remodel the dojo. He planned to construct some wonders imbued with different Dao intents for the disciples to comprehend. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 769. The Unstoppable Momentum of Darkness. 1 month after the blood prison great saint left, the Daoist field of the beginningless underwent some changes. At dawn, sunlight passed over the mountains, shining on a spot between the peaks. In the midst of 2 mountains stood a circular structure with a diameter exceeding a mile. Within the white courtyard walls stood numerous stone pillars. Each pillar was intricately carved with complex and mysterious runes. And Zhou, dressed in a white embroidered robe, led dozens of disciples into the structure. His demeanor was elegant now, with a long beard giving him an air of a grandmaster. This is the Great Dao Institute, established by our ancestors specifically for contemplating the Great Dao. You have all begun to enter the path. You can come here to cultivate in the future. And Zhou walked at the front, explaining to them. The disciples looked around, feeling very curious, though some were distracted. Great senior brother, you are the foremost of the 3rd-generation disciples. Why don't you go out and bring glory to Wuxia? One disciple couldn't help but ask. This remark prompted immediate follow-up questions from other disciples. Presently, the dark divine sect wreaks havoc, and various sects around the world have ceased hostilities to join forces against it. Yet even so, the dark divine sect's momentum continues to grow. All Wuxia disciples possess a sense of justice and are frustrated by the dark divine sect's unstoppable rise. Unfortunately, Wuxia has regulations. To leave the mountain, one must at least reach the Zhou Immortal realm. With Wuxia's foundation and the disciples' talents, reaching the Zhou Immortal realm is not difficult. However, even so, it requires time. The disciples brought by Zhou to the Great Dao Institute had not yet reached the Zhou Immortal realm. They were concerned about the world but unable to venture out, leading to impatience. And Zhou turned to look at them, smiling. You all are still too young. Do you know how many disasters have occurred before? This time is different. The dark divine sect comes from beyond the heavenly Dao. It's said that even the immortal gods cannot defeat them, a female disciple said worriedly. And Zhou replied irritably, since the immortal gods can't prevail against them, do you still wish to save the world? We may not be able to defeat the dark heavenly gods, but there are certainly beings within the dark divine sect that we can overcome. Moreover, we can save the suffering masses and fulfill our responsibilities. Another disciple answered passionately, inspiring others to agree. Born on the nine-spirit continent, they didn't suffer the hardships of mortal spirits. Their immortal cultivation was not for longevity or superiority. From a young age they were instilled with a sense of mission, to serve the world and its beings. The isolated nine-spirit continent, given the best cultivation conditions by their ancestor, demanded they repay all living beings and extol their ancestors' virtues. And Zizai looked at them feeling both helpless and gratified. Though these disciples were overestimating their capabilities, at least they hadn't deviated from Wuxi's expectations. And Zizai himself had endured hardships to reach this day. Having ventured out for training, he comprehended the nature of disciples from other sections. Those with ideals benefiting all living beings were rare. I have my responsibilities. I won't go out, and you shouldn't think of leaving prematurely either. And Zizai stated firmly, his tone allowing no dissent. A powerful aura erupted, changing the complexion of all disciples. In their memory, and Zizai always maintained a gentle demeanor, a reason they dared to voice such concerns. But facing his true aura now, they realized his authority in Wuxia wasn't solely due to seniority. The Great Tao Institute fell into silence. At that moment, a sound of something piercing the air came from afar. The group instinctively turned, seeing a streak of cyan light fly past. And Zizai frowned, recognizing the figure within the cyan light. It was Celestial Xian and her disciple Xianxia, who was severely injured and held by Celestial Xian. Not just in Zizai, the other disciples saw this too, whispering and speculating whether Xianxia was wounded by the dark divine sect. See Teach Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Enough, start your enlightenment. And Zizai redirected their attention. Elsewhere. Celestial Xian holding Xianxia arrived at Gu An's courtyard. At this moment, Guan was reading. Master Xianxia was injured by people from the dark divine sect. Her cultivation level is dissipating and I cannot avert this damage. Celestial Xian said urgently after landing beside Guan, then squatted down to place Xianxia on the ground. Guan, lying on a rocking chair, glanced at Xianxia. The girl had her eyes tightly shut, her face pale and her tightly furrowed brows twitching as if in a nightmare. I told you to act within your limits. She's entangled by a powerful power of cause and effect. Even a Taiqing golden immortal could hardly save her. Guan shook his head, causing Celestial Xian to become even more anxious. If a Taiqing golden immortal can't do it, surely you can, Celestial Xian quickly said, kneeling as she spoke. Xianxia was her first and most beloved disciple. She couldn't bear to see her pupil lose her cultivation. Guan cast Celestial Xian a glance, waved his hand casually and said, "It's done." His sleeve brushed past Xianxia's face, leaving nothing behind, but her furrowed brows instantly relaxed. Celestial Xian was momentarily stunned, immediately checking Xianxia's body. Soon she discovered that the dark power within Xianxia had vanished. She was overjoyed, instantly hugging Guan and began to thank him. "Your disciple is right here. Have some decency, move aside quickly." Guan said helplessly. Celestial Xian and Tianbai had always liked clinging to him. Even after millions of years they couldn't change this habit. Celestial Xian took the opportunity to snuggle against Guan for a while before letting go with a smile and then left with the soon-to-awaken Xianxia in her arms. Guan adjusted his position and continued reading. "You're clearly enjoying it, yet you pretend otherwise." Xinjin's voice came, but Guan ignored her. Not hearing a response, Xinjin opened her eyes, turned to Guan and asked, "I saw the dark god hiding in the darkness, his flames reflecting our celestial spirit great world. How do you plan to deal with him in the future?" Guan said he wouldn't care, but Xinjin didn't believe it. To her, Guan was waiting for the right moment. Though the dark god terrified her, making him seem unbeatable, Xinjin believed that as long as Guan acted, the dark god would definitely perish. How to deal with him? Naturally, by giving my all. If he's so powerful and I slack off, I'll be killed. What then? Guan replied, causing Xinjin to roll her eyes. Hearing this, Xinjin was completely at ease. She even began to feel pity for the dark god. The dark god hadn't invaded yet, probably waiting for the dark heavenly gods to probe the celestial spirit great world. Unfortunately, no matter how he calculated, he couldn't fathom Guan's true strength. When the dark god faces Guan, despair will surely follow. Why such a powerful being hides within this world, not seeking conquest, fame or profit and isolated on a continent, is simply inconceivable. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 770. Summoning the Dark God. Amidst the void, a gigantic golden disk was advancing, and upon it, 100,000 heavenly soldiers sat meditating and cultivating. Zhang Buku opened his eyes, gazing towards the mysterious and beautiful end of the void. His thoughts drifted as he reminisced about the previous great battle. As the struggle for the Son of Heaven grew increasingly fierce, this celestial army had already experienced no fewer than 100 great battles. However, that last battle left him in awe. Since joining the celestial court, he couldn't help but feel a sense of disdain for the 3,000 great worlds because many powerful realms existed beyond them. He had never imagined that a great thousand world could nurture an existence that even immortal gods couldn't subdue. Recalling how the celestial common god was forcefully suppressed with the entire celestial army being helpless, he felt that his path was still long. He couldn't help but think of the supporting Dao sword venerable from the celestial spirit great world. Could that sword venerable also possess the ability to surpass the celestial gods? Still thinking about the previous battle? Such great thousand worlds are rare. If it weren't for the struggle for the Son of Heaven, they wouldn't have surfaced to meddle in cause and effect. Su Yu, sitting beside Zhang Buku, spoke up. He didn't seem surprised by the previous battle. Zhang Buku glanced at him and asked, "By now the struggle for the Son of Heaven has fully erupted, and you still won't reveal your origins?" Smiling, Su Yu replied, "If you are still alive after the struggle for the Son of Heaven ends, I will tell you. Could it be that you are also a Son of Heaven?" Zhang Buku sneered. Su Yu retorted with annoyance, "Some things should not be said carelessly. Songtian above might just bestow celestial punishment upon you." Instinctively, Zhang Buku raised his eyes. Although he didn't show fear, his sudden silence clearly reflected his apprehension towards Songtian. Looking ahead, Su Yu continued, "This struggle for the Son of Heaven is more chaotic than I anticipated. I have a feeling that a great upheaval will occur later." "What kind of upheaval?" "You'll understand in due course. What is certain is that the first decisive battle of the struggle for the Son of Heaven will arrive soon." Su Yu's expression rarefied, revealing a look of dread in his eyes, which made Zhang Buku even more curious about what would happen next. Since becoming a heavenly soldier, Zhang Buku had experienced death many times and always revived, making him increasingly fearless, merely admiring the enemy's might. The struggle for the Son of Heaven was already intense enough, and yet the first decisive battle had not occurred? Both worried and excited about the future, Zhang Buku eagerly anticipated the upcoming earth-shattering battles. Time flew by swiftly and 1,000,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The celestial spirit great world had been mostly shrouded by the dark divine sect. Viewed from the universe, the celestial Dao light layer above the celestial spirit great world was largely tainted black, creating an oppressive atmosphere. Over the years, the 9 major sects combined forces to attack the dark divine sect several times, but in the Great War a century ago, the 9 major sects were heavily defeated and could no longer fight, retreating to their individual mountain gates, causing the human world to become much more desolate. With no major sect leading the charge, fewer beings dared to oppose the dark divine sect, resulting in the mortal spirits continuing to suffer, while the number of dark divine sect followers grew day by day. On a continent known as the Dark Holy Land, the dark divine sect had built an enormous sacrificial altar, 100 feet tall with a diameter of over 100 miles. The altar's edges were lined with stone pillars, each binding great cultivators and great demons, all shackled, their arms stretched wide, barely clinging to life. In the center of the altar, thousands of dark divine sect followers gathered, with the demon emperor and true monarch Qitian also present, having joined the dark divine sect after being rescued by the dark heavenly god. All followers looked in the same direction, where the dark heavenly god, shrouded in black smoke, stood with his back to them, gazing up at the sky. Will the dark god really descend? True monarch Qitian used the sound transmission technique to ask the demon emperor beside him, his tone nervous. The dark heavenly god was already the most powerful existence he had ever seen, seemingly omnipotent. Such a being was merely a servant of the dark god, making it hard to imagine the extent of the dark god's power. The demon emperor, gazing ahead, replied through the sound transmission technique. By now you should believe in the dark god's existence. What you should be considering now is how the dark god will treat us once he descends. Upon hearing this, true monarch Qitian furrowed his brows. After being infused with dark power, they did become stronger, but they were also aware of the negative effects of the dark power. They became more irritable, greedy, and filled with suspicion. The creator of such a power that invoked so many negative emotions was certainly no benevolent being. At the same time, on the edge of the continent, above a sea of clouds, stood more than a dozen people observing the altar. These were all Wuxia disciples, led by Celestial Demon Child and Tianbai. Tianbai held the white spirit exquisite tower, which emitted a faint light, concealing their presence and hiding their cause and effect. Is the Dark Divine Sect really going to summon the Dark God? What can we do? The current Dark Divine Sect is already invincible. If the Dark God descends, won't it be the end for us all? Even Ancestor Master LV isn't a match for the Dark Heavenly God. We have no means at all. In this world, perhaps only our ancestor has the hope of defeating the Dark Heavenly God. But we can't expect him to act. He's already protected the human world many times. The Wuxia disciples discussed among themselves, most of them being fourth-generation disciples who had participated in many battles against the Dark Divine Sect. Celestial Demon Child did not join their conversation. She stared intently into the distance, hesitating about whether to retreat. Their Dao treasures had all been strengthened by Guan, which allowed them to infiltrate. But no matter how powerful the Dao treasures were, their effectiveness depended on the user's cultivation level. They couldn't rely on Dao treasures alone to annihilate the Dark Divine Sect. Celestial Demon Child turned her gaze in another direction, sensing many powerful auras approaching. The news of the Dark Divine Sect preparing to summon the Dark God had spread across the world, naturally attracting those righteous individuals who, despite the risk of their lives and spirits being extinguished, would do their utmost to stop them. Even though the combined might of the 9 major sects couldn't shake the Dark Divine Sect, could these incoming great cultivators turn the tide? Rumble. The ground trembled as a massive pillar of black light erupted from the distant altar, shooting skyward, shaking the celestial vault and clouds, as if connecting to an exotic world. Sir the Novelier. Website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Seeing this, the Wuxia disciples grew more agitated, repeatedly asking Celestial Demon Child if they should act. They knew it would be nearly impossible to combat the Dark Divine Sect, but those who dared to come had long put life and death aside. Witnessing the Dark Divine Sect attempting to summon the Dark God, they could no longer hold back. What's the rush? Celestial Demon Child shouted sternly, causing the disciples to fall silent in fright. A sword light streaked across the celestial vault above them, disappearing into the depths of the continent in the blink of an eye. It's him. Celestial Demon Child raised an eyebrow, suddenly understanding why Guan valued him so highly. Even from afar where she stood, she could see that despite being alone, he dared to face challenges head-on. The figure within that sword light was none other than the foremost sword cultivator of this world, Li Ya. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 771. The Only Chance on the Altar. The Dark Heavenly God standing before the black energy pillar suddenly turned his head to look. Immediately, thousands of followers of the Dark Divine Sect followed suit, witnessing a sword light rapidly approaching. As the sword light dissipated, Li Ya's figure emerged, swinging his sword to strike. A sword chi akin to Jing Hong attacked with such speed that the cultists of the Dark Divine Sect had no time to react, yet the Dark Heavenly God did not intervene. Boom! The sword chi struck the black energy pillar and dispersed directly, causing no damage at all. Dressed in black, Li Ya remained suspended in the air, his expression unchanged upon seeing this scene. Sword God Li Ya, we meet again. You refused my invitation before. Do you still wish to become my enemy this time? The dark heavenly god looked at Li Ye from afar and asked, his tone indifferent and devoid of any emotion. Li Ye calmly replied, "Our paths differ, so we cannot conspire together. You are invaders. From the moment you set foot in this great thousand world, you were destined to be my enemies." The dark heavenly god said no more, only waving his hand lightly. In an instant, dozens of figures rose like arrows, charging towards Li Ye. Thus, a fierce battle erupted. Li Ye was quickly surrounded. These followers of the Dark Divine Sect were all renowned great cultivators or great powers of the demon race, each possessing extraordinary divine skills. Despite his unrivaled sword intent, Li Ye soon fell into a disadvantage. As the battle commenced, more and more powerful figures arrived to support, leading to an increasing number of Dark Divine Sect followers joining the fray. True Monarch Xian watched the chaotic battle in the sky, hesitating whether to rush up. "If you make a move now, you'll truly have no way back," the Demon Emperor suddenly said. True Monarch Xian turned to look at him. The bursts of mana in the sky cast alternating light and shadows upon the faces of the two demons. "A way back? Why seek a way back? Moreover, the Dark God is about to descend. Do you still plan to defect? Isn't that courting death?" True Monarch Xian frowned and asked. The Demon Emperor shifted his gaze to him, his eyes deep and unreadable, causing a sudden unease in True Monarch Xian's heart. "You wouldn't think." True Monarch Xian looked at the Demon Emperor in shock, his voice trembling as he spoke. The Demon Emperor said expressionlessly, "Xian, you once had ambitions. Do you really want to become a walking corpse, endlessly enduring and retreating merely to survive?" True Monarch Xian gritted his teeth and said, "Now, it's too late." The Demon Emperor looked towards the black energy pillar, saying no more. At the same time, in the cosmic void before the world gate, Celestial Spirit God Tai Immortal Monarch, Emperor Tianhong, the 72 Immortals of Jin Dong, and others were preparing solemnly. "Once the Dark God descends, we must take action," Tai Immortal Monarch said in a deep voice. The Immortal God's expressions were resolute, without objection. They couldn't even contend with the Dark Heavenly God, let alone stop the Dark God, but as immortal gods they had to stand forth even if it meant death. Tai Immortal Monarch stared fixedly at the top of the void, where a black hole appeared, from which horrifying black energy surged, as if a terrifying existence was about to descend. Not long after, Tai Immortal Monarch's expression changed slightly. He shouted in a low voice, "It's coming." Before his words fell, he charged forward first, followed closely by the other immortal gods. Each displayed their full momentum, aiming to reach the front of the black hole directly. However, during the relocation, an unimaginable oppressive force enveloped them, causing them to stop instantly, unable to move. Tai Immortal Monarch's expression changed dramatically. Before he could react, his body instantly exploded and disintegrated into ashes, followed by the other immortal gods. All were obliterated. Meanwhile, in the human world, the celestial vault above the altar was covered by rolling dark clouds. The sea of clouds churned, forming a vortex scene. In the midst of his fierce battle, Li Ye looked up, sensing trouble. He exploded with his most powerful sword intent, trying to break out of the encirclement, but was blocked by a golden tower. This golden tower, 100 feet tall, continuously emitted golden light that shook the soul, sealing off the surrounding space, making it impossible for Li Ye to break through in a short time. Just as he was restrained, powerful enemies from all directions attacked, forcing him into a defensive posture. Those fighting on the scene were all free immortals and Daoist Zhangzizai immortals. Their battles shook the heavens and earth, yet the altar below remained incredibly solid and unmoved. Celestial Demon Child and Tian Bai also led Wuxia disciples into battle, but the growing number of Dark Divine Sect supporters prevented them from approaching the altar. The Dark Heavenly God, standing before the black energy pillar, surveyed all around, seemingly admiring the futile resistance of the living beings. Boom! The black energy pillar behind him suddenly expanded, the wild wind wreaking havoc, sweeping away the cultists on the altar who hadn't engaged in battle. Via the Ovalfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The Demon Emperor and True Monarch Xian slid dozens of miles before stabilizing their positions. "It's coming." True monarch Xian's eyes widened as he shouted in shock. Other cultists also looked nervously at the black energy pillar behind the dark heavenly god. Despite having joined the dark divine sect, they still felt fear and tension at the impending descent of the dark god. An oppressive force far exceeding that of the dark heavenly god descended, instantly halting the chaos in the sky. All beings, both earthly creatures and dark divine sect followers, stopped fighting. They struggled to turn their heads, their gaze fixed on the black energy pillar. At this moment, everyone felt the breath of death, as if they could be annihilated at any moment. Gradually they all began to descend, being suppressed and forced to lower their stance. Liya gritted his teeth, attempting to resist the oppressive force, but found himself unable to. When his feet touched the altar, the force surged, causing his expression to change drastically, his knees crashing onto the altar. Not just him but all living beings experienced the same. Whether falling on the altar or not, all were pressed onto their knees, hands bracing against the ground, looking in disbelief at the black energy pillar. The black energy pillar's diameter continued to expand, eventually resembling a black sky curtain hung between heaven and earth, making the dark heavenly god in front of it seem insignificant. Who? A heavy breathing sound echoed, causing all living beings to feel unease. Kneeling on the ground, true monarch Xian's eyes widened, his pupils trembling as he saw a white skeleton gradually emerging from the black energy pillar. This skeleton was vast, larger than a mountain, visible from all over the continent. When it stepped out of the black energy pillar, the terrifying oppressive force abruptly vanished, leaving the world in sudden silence. Liya tried to get up but found himself unable to. Despite the absence of oppressive force on his body, he couldn't stand, as if his body no longer belonged to him. This eerie feeling only intensified his fear. He gazed up at the imposing white skeleton of the dark god, feeling a deep sense of helplessness. Such an existence was beyond his capability to contend with. I offer you all a chance, your only chance. Who among you is willing to sacrifice themselves to continue the existence of this world? An icy voice rang out, clearly transmitted into the ears of every living being on the continent. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 772. Stand up, sacrifice myself? All living beings on the continent shivered at these words, including the followers of the dark divine sect. The dark god possessed overwhelming power, yet still proposed this test, clearly intending to mock them. For the followers of the dark divine sect, their god's enjoyment of toying with the weak was itself a dangerous sign. The dark heavenly god stood motionless in front of the dark god's bones, silent like a ghostly figure. If your will to sacrifice is strong enough, you can resist the suppression of the dark power, you can stand up. Whoever stands up first will get this chance. Let's see who wants to be the savior and who can achieve it. The voice of the dark god resounded again, deafening all living beings. The vast majority did not feel a sudden urge to sacrifice but rather despair. The previous oppressive force of the dark god was too strong, so strong that it snuffed out their will to fight. Yet Liya wanted to sacrifice himself. He tried to get up with all his might but could not. Get up, Liya roared inwardly. At this moment he could only believe in the dark god's words. In the face of absolute power, he thought the dark god had no need to toy with them. Even if it was false, he wanted to prove to the dark god that someone would stand out in this world and would not be looked down upon. However, no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't stand up. His will could not break through the shackles of the dark. He became increasingly angry and began to feel that the dark god was deceiving him. Suddenly, he saw someone in front of him start to wobble but then stood up, causing his pupils to contract. That person was from the dark divine sect. Not only Liya but other living beings also noticed someone stood up. You, true monarch Xian widened his eyes, looking at the demon emperor beside him in disbelief. The demon emperor lowered his head, trembling non-stop, but still struggled to stand up. Unexpectedly at this moment, the one to step forward is a demon already plunged into darkness. The voice of the dark god was filled with sarcasm. Look carefully. The being who can stand up at this moment must have a deep love for this world, with compassion towards all living beings beyond your imagination. Yet such a being has fallen into darkness. It seems there is injustice in this world. These words made the eyes of the living beings on the continent flicker. Some were indignant, some bewildered, and others remained filled with anger and hatred. Many recognized the demon emperor's identity, whose past had become legend, spreading throughout the human world. The demon emperor was the kindest of demons, wanting all races to coexist peacefully, only to be suppressed by the 9 major sects and sealed for millions of years. No one was surprised that the demon emperor immersed himself in darkness. Not even those who wanted to oppose the dark divine sect could blame him. But no one expected that at this critical moment, the demon emperor would step forward, choosing to sacrifice himself to protect all living beings. Looking at his back, all living beings felt a profound shock. "You are crazy. You are crazy." True monarch Qitian stared at the demon emperor, roaring inwardly, unable to speak and trying to hold the demon emperor back with his gaze. But the demon emperor did not look at him. Instead, he stared at the dark god. "You don't need to strike them down. I am willing to sacrifice myself. Can you give a chance of survival to all living beings, even if it means joining the dark divine sect?" The demon emperor tightly stared at the dark god, gritting his teeth, his voice echoing repeatedly under the dim celestial vault. Leah looked at the back of the demon emperor, listening to his words, feeling an unusual sense of admiration in his heart. He had heard of the demon emperor's story and had once felt pity, but as a human he did not save this demon. When the demon emperor was in distress, no one stood up. Now, with the world in trouble, the so-called masters of heaven and earth could only await death in despair, while the demon emperor, oppressed by the human race, stood up. Sir, the novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Suddenly, Li Ya's heart wavered. He began to question whether it was just for the human race to be the masters of heaven and earth, as such catastrophes had happened countless times during their rule. He had seen wicked demons, but comparing the two races, human hearts were more terrifying than demons. Damn it, why am I kneeling here? Why can't I stand up? After a brief moment of shame, infinite anger surged in Li Ya's heart, his whole body trembling, his legs seemingly about to rise. Extreme anger made Li Ya feel he was about to break the shackles, making his anger still rise, his face flushed red. Smack. A hand suddenly pressed on Li Ya's shoulder, pushing him back down, causing all his chi power to dissipate, and the anger in his heart mysteriously vanished. Li Ya instinctively glanced sideways and then froze. He saw Guan, dressed in a green robe, standing beside him, one hand pressing on his shoulder. Guan stepped forward, conveniently taking Li Ya's treasure sword into his hand. Holding Li Ya's sword, Guan walked towards the dark god. Li Ya stared blankly at Guan's back, feeling a sense of déjà vu. Junior brother Gu. Li Ya's mouth curled into a helpless smile. In such a critical moment, junior brother Gu, you always manage to stand out, not too early, not too late, saving the world while inflicting a warning upon all living beings. The dark god's gaze fell on Guan, his eyes slightly narrowing. The dark heavenly god slightly moved, clearly noticing Guan's presence as well. He looked up at the dark god but eventually chose not to act. The demon emperor took a deep breath and then roared angrily, "Dark god, answer me." He shouted hoarsely, shattering the fear in his heart, questioning the dark god, seeking a glimmer of hope for this world. The dark god did not answer. The demon emperor, unaware of Guan's presence, could only stare at him intently. Meanwhile, Guan walked past the kneeling beings. Some from the dark divine sect looked at him, some cultivators from various sects looked at him, most with puzzled eyes, not knowing who Guan was. In the distance, Wuxia disciples also noticed Guan. On the altar, Guan walking towards the dark god was so conspicuous. Celestial demon child and Tian Bai smiled, feeling relieved, while the Wuxia disciples felt nervous, unsure if their ancestor could confront the dark god. Who exactly are you and why have you hidden in this world? The dark god's voice echoed, hiding a murderous intent. The demon emperor was stunned upon hearing this. He seemed to recall something, instinctively turning his head. Seeing Guan approaching with a sword, his eyes widened. He had never seen Guan but somehow felt that Guan's figure was familiar. As Guan got closer, a figure deep in his mind gradually emerged. Since you have such determination, I will help you transcend your mortal body, but I hope you do not become what you now fear and despise. The voice from the past echoed once more in the demon emperor's ears. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 773. That sword. The demon emperor stared blankly as Guan approached. Ancient memories churned in his mind, making him ignore the current predicament. The dark god did not act either, only staring at Guan. At this moment, Guan seemed to become the focal point of the entire world. More and more gazes locked onto him, most filled with confusion. In the present world, few people knew Guan. Even when mentioning Wuxia, people only thought of some vague legends. The most famous figures of Wuxia were Zhou Xian and Chen Chuan. People knew Wuxia's master was strong, but there weren't many records or legends about him. The world was silent. All living beings stared at Guan, wanting to see what he would do. From the dark god's inquiry, this man should be very strong. But, no matter how strong, can he be powerful enough to contend with the entire dark divine sect? Guan was holding Li Ya's sword, ignoring the gazes from all directions. This time he did not deliberately hide his true face, allowing everyone to see. He wanted to tell all beings that the celestial spirit great world could rely on self-rescue. He was neither an immortal god nor an outer heaven demon. He looked just like an ordinary human. Many great powers from outer heaven assumed Guan came from another great world, hidden here. Little did they know, Guan was born and bred in the celestial spirit great world, which was why he was willing to stay. The dark god saw Guan not responding. His expression grew increasingly cold, his killing intent almost solidifying. He raised his right bone claw, and as he did, the entire world suddenly changed. Darkness swallowed the celestial vault and the earth, making all beings feel suffocated. It was at this moment Guan moved. He swiftly threw Li Ya's treasure sword, its cold light dazzling, illuminating the demon emperor's face. His eyes widened. The dark heavenly god's black robe fluttered violently. He too could not react. Boom! The sword pierced the dark god at an unbelievable speed, without any flashy divine power or fierce sword intent. This sword was very ordinary yet exceedingly forceful. The darkness enveloping the world shattered suddenly. The sword light traversed the sacrificial platform, directly shattering the dark god's massive white bone, fragmented bones flying in all directions. This scene left all beings dumbfounded, including the followers of the dark divine sect. They had already estimated Guan as highly as possible. After all, Guan could advance, holding his head high under the dark god's pressure. They had expected a stunningly fierce battle but did not anticipate Guan shattering the dark god's white bone with just one sword. Search * the novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Could the dark god be testing him? All beings harbored such thoughts. In past years, the dark heavenly god established an invincible and powerful image. His worshipped dark god could not possibly be weak. Based on this, none of them believed the dark god had truly been defeated. The demon emperor turned to look, gazing at the fragments of bones scattered across the sky, stunned. The dark heavenly god turned to look too, sharing the same thoughts as other beings, believing the dark god was intentionally testing Guan, thus he did not panic. Guan raised his hand and pulled. Li Ya's treasure sword traced a perfect arc in the air, landing before Li Ya. The sword blade plunged into the sacrificial platform's ground, continually vibrating. Unlike other beings, Li Ya believed the dark god was truly dead. He looked at his sword, never imagining his sword to be so powerful. The sword just now lacked sword intent and sword chi, giving him a sense of the great Daoist simplicity. The sacrificial platform fell into silence. After a few breaths, slowly some began to realize something was off. Could the dark god really be dead? This speculation sparked hope in more and more beings, while the dark divine sect's side found it unbelievable. They worshipped the power of darkness in their minds. The dark god was the strongest, omnipotent. How could he be killed by a single sword? That sword was swift, but this completely contradicted their expectations of a great battle. The dark heavenly god came back to his senses too, realizing something was wrong, wanting to move away, but an extremely terrifying power suppressed him, rendering him immobile. He looked at Guan in horror. Guan kept walking towards him. The sacrificial platform remained silent, but all beings watched Guan. His footsteps seemed to echo in their ears, pounding on their hearts, strong and powerful, striking at their spirits and souls. Guan walked step by step towards the dark heavenly god, bringing boundless fear to him. He deliberately walked slowly, and as time passed, the dark god never reappearing, made more and more beings begin to believe the dark god was truly dead. He died abruptly without any resistance. If they hadn't previously felt the terrifying pressure of the dark god, they might suspect the dark divine sect to be a lie, and the so-called dark god not worth mentioning. But now, their hearts were filled with infinite shock and reverence. Who was this person? Why was he so powerful? The disciples of Wuxia were even more excited, standing up and looking at Guan from afar, not daring to disturb him. Other beings also gradually realized the dark god's pressure was gone. They could stand up, and when they did, no one spoke, nor did anyone leave, still standing quietly in place waiting. Guan walked past the demon emperor, getting closer and closer to the dark heavenly god. The demon emperor's gaze followed Guan, as did the gaze of the true monarch Qitian. In the true monarch Qitian's eyes, Guan was dazzling, emanating an unprecedented aura. This was the person he should become. Though the true monarch Qitian did not know Guan at this moment, he developed an extreme sense of reverence and aspiration towards Guan. Not only because Guan was strong, but also because Guan appeared so timely at such an awe-inspiring moment. The thoughts of the spectators transmitted into Guan's ears, but he did not care. He arrived in front of the dark heavenly god, his gaze cold. An unimaginable force of suppression made the dark heavenly god kneel directly, kneeling before Guan, a scene that made all beings' hearts jump. Because they realized the deep significance of the dark heavenly god's kneeling. It heralds the end of the catastrophe brought by the dark divine sect, and the myth of darkness would become a joke. The heavens seemed to favor them, and the black clouds in the sky scattered, sunlight pouring down, driving away the darkness in the human world. Who are you? Why? The dark heavenly god asked through gritted teeth, his face shrouded in dark energy, not revealing his true visage. Guan looked down at him, said, "It seems you are insignificant within the dark heavenly court, merely pawns placed outside." He had already been to the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower, and the speed of the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower had slowed considerably, indicating the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable hesitated greatly. Given this situation, the dark god dared to come. It was evident that the dark god was not worthy of mention in the eyes of the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. Not only the dark god but other dark beings placed into the heavenly Tao were also the same, mere pawns to the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable. The dark heavenly god trembled upon hearing Guan utter the words dark heavenly court, lowering his head gradually. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 774. What constitutes saintliness? Watching the dark heavenly god lower his head, Guan showed no mercy. With a flick of his right hand sleeve, the dark heavenly god instantly recovered. A prompt appeared before Guan's eyes, indicating success in seizing billions of years of lifespan. He tilted his head slightly, casting a sideways glance at the demon emperor. The demon emperor met his gaze and shivered all over. Instinctively wanting to speak, he found that Guan had vanished into thin air as if he had never appeared. The wind from afar swept across the heavens and earth, blowing past every living being on the sacrificial altar. The followers of the dark divine sect felt the dark power within them dissipating, causing them confusion. If the dark divine sect were to truly dissolve, how would they carry on in the future? He is truly a deity. I wonder who that senior was. A great cultivator sighed sincerely, his face somewhat dazed, feeling as if everything was a dream. That senior was the patriarch of our Wuxia who has saved the human world multiple times. You all were fortunate to encounter him in action. A disciple of Wuxia laughed loudly and proudly, his words causing an uproar among the other beings. The patriarch of Wuxia? Isn't that the legendary great power? The demon emperor also heard these words. A fighting spirit ignited in his eyes, and his whole demeanor transformed as if he became a different person. True monarch Qitian, who had been watching him, noticed his change. Could the demon emperor know the ancestor master Wuxia? True monarch Qitian speculated secretly, a bold thought emerging in his mind which instantly thrilled him. Unnoticed, Li drew his sword and silently departed. Elsewhere, Guan had already returned to the Daoist field of the beginningless. As he walked along the mountain path, he raised his right hand. A mass of black energy emerged from his palm, revealing a pair of eyes, It was the eyes of the dark god. How could this be? The dark god was terrified upon seeing Guan. Before he could finish his sentence, his eyes became hollow. Guan began the soul search, understanding his past and the dark heavenly court. The vast memories of the dark god were nothing to Guan today. With a probe of his divine sense, all the memories poured into Guan's mind. This dark god was once a being of the heavenly Tao. Like most stories of ascending to immortality, he was born in the mortal world, a peerless genius. He endured hardships, ascended to the great thousand world, created a Daoist lineage there, and accepted numerous disciples, eventually becoming a legendary figure in one of the great worlds. Later he ascended to immortality, thinking he had fully attained the Tao. However, shortly after his ascension, the War of the Sons of Heaven broke out and he was forced into it. Wishing to protect the great thousand world and the mortal world he had dwelled in amid the chaos, he ultimately failed, and the celestial court annihilated the 3,000 great worlds, recreating them. His past thus ceased to exist. From then on, a seed of hatred was planted in his heart. When the contest for the celestial emperor arose, he was dragged into the chaos again. Ultimately, the Son of Heaven he supported failed and was exiled by the celestial emperor, alongside his followers, into chaos, suffering endless backlash from the great Tao. During those long years of backlash from the great Tao, that Son of Heaven achieved sudden enlightenment, founding the dark fortune, establishing the dark heavenly court and rescuing them from torment. In the ensuing years, the dark god continuously cultivated, awaiting the day of returning to the heavenly Tao. After the founding of the dark heavenly court, that Son of Heaven proclaimed himself the dark heavenly emperor. He planned to devour the heavenly Tao with dark power to become the true celestial emperor. In the mortal world he was a favored scion of the heavens. In the great thousand world he was an unparalleled myth. Yet from the moment he ascended he was insignificant. Whether in the celestial court or the dark heavenly court, he remained little more than a speck of dust. Having been sent by the Emperor Bone Profound Venerable Sect to the 3,000 great worlds as the vanguard, he bore a selfish desire to seize the opportunity to escape the dark fortune and reincarnate as a true being of the heavenly Tao. The celestial spirit Great World was not truly drawn into the struggle over the Son of Heaven, and its fortune was on the rise, so he chose it. After observing for a long time, he saw that no stronger immortals or gods intervened despite the dark heavenly god's chaos. He thought his chance had come. Unfortunately, he encountered Guan. Through his memories, Guan gained some understanding of the dark heavenly court. It possessed 9 supreme treasures, of which the heaven-suppressing Endless Tower was just one. The exiled immortal gods were equivalent to half a celestial court, and their survival in chaos indeed posed a significant threat to the heavenly Tao. Guan felt puzzled by the celestial emperor's decision. The celestial emperor had the power to eradicate the immortal gods. Why did he choose to exile so many instead, unafraid of nurturing future trouble? Was it part of a greater plan, or did he simply not care? The celestial emperor was incredibly strong. Even in the dark god's heart he was an invincible existence. It was precisely out of fear of the celestial emperor that the dark god wanted to reincarnate into the celestial court, escaping the dark heavenly court. In his eyes, the dark heavenly court held no hope. He followed it out of necessity. After witnessing the dark god's memories, Guan felt a deep sympathy for him. With a squeeze of his right hand he completely shattered the soul essence of the dark god. Immediately, a prompt appeared before his eyes, indicating that the dark god had granted him 900 billion years of lifespan. For one of his level, having only 9,000 billion years of life left meant he was nearing the end of his journey. In his desire to reincarnate, the dark god revealed his true essence, giving Guan the opportunity to eliminate him. Though his life story warranted sympathy, Guan would not take him in, for he had betrayed many benefactors merely to survive. However, out of this sense of sympathy, Guan decided he would later record his story in a book, ensuring that his erased past would be remembered in the human world. After vanquishing the dark god, the destiny of the world in Guan's eyes completely changed. The future would usher in a new era, brimming with interesting events. The years are long, and the mixed element profound venerable immortal is not enough. To how high must I ascend to truly defeat you? Guan mused, a smile tugging at his lips as he began to look forward to that day. Sooner or later he would honor the engagement and face the Celestial Emperor in a true battle. Xianxia the Nephire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The mixed element profound venerable immortal was powerful, but it was still far from sufficient. In the Dark God's memories, Guan heard the mysterious dark heavenly emperor mention only 2 words. Only by becoming a saint did one have absolute hope of defeating the celestial emperor. Becoming a saint? What does it mean to be a saint? In the depths of the universe, the world gate was radiating brilliant light as celestial spirit god, Tai immortal monarch, and other immortals and gods emerged one after another. Aside from them there was another immortal god. Clad in heavy golden armor, he was encircled by 2 red sashes, gripping a long spear with celestial bodies orbiting its tip. His imposing presence overshadowed the others. They halted and frowned in unison. The dark fortune has dispersed? As the chief of the 72 immortals of Golden Cave, Purple Dragon Star Monarch spoke hesitantly. The other gods all opened their heavenly eyes on their foreheads and scrutinized, the results delighting them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.